Hello, and welcome to the show Goldsquadrongays. It's the podcast where two Star Wars loving gays break down each episode of their favorite Star Wars TV shows while also being gay as hell. I'm your host, Bradley Brower.
I'm your other host, Charles Rogers. Prepping your intro is for lame, boring nerds, and we have a guest today.
Was that me? Was that you tossing me the ball?
That was you, but also it would have made more sense if I had not fucked that up. I was going to say we're the gay two-thirds of the podcast this week, and intros are for lame, boring nerds. However, I did fuck up my own one-sentence intro, which should tell you I'm a professional podcaster who's been doing this for several years.
You're being on brand. It's on brand. It's fine.
I'm keeping that consistency.
Good job.
We do have a guest today. Guest, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Stephanie. I'm the woman half of the show on Dark Side Divas and Marvelous Divas.
Now, Stephanie, I assume most people listening to this show are going to be familiar with Dark Side Divas and Marvelous Divas. Mm-hmm. But in case they're not, would you like to share with us what those podcasts are?
So it's basically me and Chris, who has been on the Goldsquadrongays couple of times.
Couple of times. I like violence, and he provides good violence.
Not physical violence, you guys, just emotional violence.
Just emotional.
Right. Yeah.
There is a lot of bloodshed that can happen through a Zoom call.
You'd be amazed. No, my good friend Chris is the gay half of our show, and on Dark Side Divas, we're watching through all of Star Wars in chronological order. On Marvelous Divas, we're watching through the entire MCU in chronological order, and let me tell you, it's a lot. It's a lot, but it's a good time.
Now, Dark Side Divas, y'all, as of recording this episode, y'all are midway through season 1 of Rebels.
Is it even midway? It's a really long season, and we just recorded episode 8.
The one I listened to on Monday was like episode 7-ish. There was some debate about this.
Empire Day. We did Empire
Day.
Yeah.
You're about halfway through the season.
Yeah. Which means that we've already done from episode 1, The Phantom Menace, all the way up. We did all of Clone Wars. So if anybody's itching for a Clone Wars rewatch, go back through all of that. But the chronological order thing is kind of screwing us a little bit because we don't want to cover anything that's not already complete. So no, we haven't done Andor. We haven't done the Bad Batch. Those things are still in progress.
Right.
So if you want to listen to somebody do Andor and Bad Batch coverage, that's this show that we're on right now. Y'all listen to
this one. Also, First Steps, I recommend.
Oh, yeah.
Just did both of those shows, which was fantastic.
First Steps is so cool because they're doing the same thing. They're going chronological order, but one of their people has never watched a Star Wars before. And so it's awesome. So.
Now on Marvelous Divas, y'all are up to, what was that movie again? I forget the name of it. It was really small. It didn't do
Endgame. Fucking Endgame.
You guys are already on Endgame?
We're already on Endgame, yeah.
Wow, you guys are pretty far. Wait, did you do all of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. already?
Oh,
that's how they got to Endgame.
That's how. See, here's the thing. Chris is a bitch, and he refuses to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
What?
And I'm like, it's canon, and he's like, it's 7 seasons, and I hate NBC, and I'm like, that's fair. So it's a whole thing. We may at some point do a spinoff and force him to sit down and fucking watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I think it's classic. I mean, to be fair, I gave up about 5 seasons in, but it was still good when I watched. Yeah, I mean,
I only made it to 3.
It gets kind of weird and gooey in the middle and doesn't make a whole fuck of a lot of sense, and then it comes back around to awesome again.
Okay.
But no, we did do all of Agent Carter though, so that's in there.
Oh, okay.
10 out of 10. Highly recommend. I watched the first season when it came out. I watched the second season alongside as I was catching up on Marvelous Divas.
You watched the second season of Agent Carter? Was there 2 seasons?
There was 2 seasons.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I know it so well. I only covered every single episode on my podcast.
So I rewatched it alongside Marvelous Divas. So I would watch the episode of Agent Carter, and then I would listen to the Marvelous Divas episode. 10 out of 10, I do highly recommend doing that for the show.
It's a good time.
Well, before we dive into The Mandalorian, Season 3, Episode 8, we have to take a brief detour because something has happened that has never happened before in the 2+ year history of this podcast, and I needed to jump on it before Bradley checked our metrics and saw it, although he might have already seen it.
What?
Someone actually left a review.
What?
2 years!
Oh my God.
Oh my God. That's awesome.
So, yeah,
That's
so I
awesome.
have brought the review with me, 5 stars.
Nice.
Oh, of
So I'm
course.
going to read it very quickly, just to demonstrate to Steph that she's not the only one with imposter syndrome on this show.
I'm going to enjoy this because you're not talking about me. So go.
So it's from PT Long 1. So thank you for the review. Fun and thorough. This podcast is a very fun and witty listen. The hosts are very thorough with the episodes and their interpretations. I love the connections between Star Wars and real history that are noted within the episodes. A very interesting and inclusive podcast for any LGBTQ plus listener.
Aw. Now, those of you who are listening to this, you can't see their faces right now, but your hosts are very uncomfortable, and it's amazing.
I shared it around. I actually sent that review to Aaron, and I was like, see, Aaron, people like when you come on the show.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
So
that
if
was
everybody could leave them more reviews and make them more and more uncomfortable with how good their show is, that would be great.
Absolutely. That would be really fantastic, actually.
Absolutely. That is the reason to do it. Leave us 5 stars and nice things, and I will read them, getting progressively uncomfortable as I have to say nice things
Like
about
he's
myself.
inching out of the frame, you guys. Like subconsciously, he's trying to leave the Zoom call. There you go, back towards the middle. There you
We're
go.
trying to move back over toward the mic. Well, thank you for letting us do that little digression.
Of course.
And without further ado, Bradley, do you want to take us into The Mandalorian, Season 3, Episode 8, The Something?
The return.
The Return. which is a bit of a misnomer, because they technically returned to last episode, but that's okay, John. I know you only
Split
wrote
those
one
hairs,
draft
baby.
of this.
I was going to say, we'll probably
Right.
get into why it's called The Return. Yeah, this week, the Mandalorian and his allies confront their enemies. Steph, what is one thing you liked about this episode and one thing you did not?
I really like that Din Djarin, bless his heart, remains the only person in the show who has no idea he's in a Star War. He's the sweetest himboist, just like eye on the prize, trying to get through this situation. He doesn't know that he's in high camp. He has no idea that he's surrounded by people who are just chewing the scenery all over his face. He doesn't know. But I also appreciate that he's the only person who thinks he's still in season 1 of The Mandalorian. Like, he still has that vibe. And he's carried that through, and I credit that to all like 3 or 4 people it takes to portray this character for us. They've maintained like original season 1 vibe. He has not increased in the camp and the weirdness as the show has gone on, like everybody else has. So he's like a true North Star, and I fucking love that about him. And it's so weird in this episode. So I really like that in this episode. A thing I didn't like, the script. It feels, look, to clarify, I love this show. I love all of the characters in this show. I love Mandalore. I love all of that. I love all Star Wars. Star Wars is like pizza. All Star Wars is good. All pizza is good. It's just that some pizza is a Totino's party pizza with like the cube pepperoni on it. You know, we're not quite at that level here. I'd call this a solid like rising crust Red Baron. Like definitely it came out of the freezer aisle though. The script feels like fan fiction, like
100,
Jon
yeah.
Favreau and Dave Filoni writing fan fiction about themselves.
In the entire time we have covered the show, I have, and especially this season, because I'm pretty sure we've griped about the writing every single episode. I don't think anyone has summed it up as succinctly as that.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Well, I was thinking about it, like, why does this feel fan fiction-y? Why does this feel like, and it's because it's low stakes. I don't at any point in this episode think anybody's in danger. I mean, maybe Axe Woves for a second, but he's fine. And maybe it's because I've been conditioned by Star Wars to expect that all good things come with a heaping helping of bad. And like, if you feel good for now, everything's going to go to shit in a second. But we never got that follow-up, so it didn't feel like a Star War. It felt like a fan fiction of a Star War. Like the kind that's got tags like fluff, cuddle, shit like that, you know?
Yeah.
The bad guy gets murdered really hard. Which
Does he,
is
though?
bluff to me.
Nobody.
Does he?
Nobody.
That is
He's
true.
just engulfed in flames. That doesn't mean shit in Star Wars. The
It
galaxy
sure
far,
shit
far
doesn't.
away. It doesn't mean shit. And he's wearing Beskar. Anyway, it's a whole thing.
The
So that's
question,
what I like.
the question is going to be, how effective is the giant flamethrower? Because if it turns out to not be effective, I will be smug about this for the rest of my natural born life.
By giant flamethrower, do you mean mean the massive fireball of a capital ship crashing into
Yes.
a base?
Correct. It's an impromptu flamethrower.
Is everything that's fire just a flamethrower to you now? This is a vendetta against fire.
If I could turn it into something smug, yes.
I encourage
Yes,
this. Carry on.
One thing I really liked about the episode, I liked how conclusive it felt to the arc of the season. The last 2 seasons, we had an ending that was very much, okay, we solved the thing, but we've left some giant dangling cliffhanger thing that we need to resolve in ideally the next season, sometimes in a completely different show, taking episodes away from that show. But whatever. And this time it really felt like I know there's a season 4 coming because it's already written. I've said my opinion about what I think's going on with that. But even if there wasn't, even if they said the story of the Mandalorian specifically is over, I would feel satisfied-ish with this. We would have some loose threads. You know, what the fuck is up with Kane? But the general overall thrust of this season, they started the season with them talking about retaking Mandalore, and then at the end of it, they retake Mandalore. And it's ended, and it doesn't feel like I'm being led by the nose into watching the next season, which is very nice. A nice little serial story. One thing I didn't like, I have a few specific points in my notes, and this is going to sound like a very, very familiar criticism because it's kind of a familiar criticism overall of the season. There's a specific thing with Moff Gideon. Basically everything with Moff Gideon, I feel like fell short, did not hit nearly as hard as it needed to. And that's for 2 major reasons. We'll get to one of them when we get to a specific scene. But the other one is, again, that motherfucker's just not in this season. Right. They don't know how to write this guy in a way that's not, oh, he's in the background puppeting everything. And I'm like, okay, so when he does his anguished declaration that Giancarlo Esposito does in his fantastically hammy delivery, I'm like, I mean, this is fun to watch. I don't feel anything for this guy because I don't know shit about him, but so everything with it, he felt just like a Final Punch boss guy, and that really didn't feel like the character they'd been setting up for 3 seasons, so I didn't really like that. Bradley, what about you? One thing you liked, one thing you did not.
I have to agree with you on my did not like. I just feel like
you have done this every week.
I know. I think we're
this
just
is
so
why
in
you're
sync
letting
this
me
season.
go first. Because I just say the thing and then you're like, yep.
Yeah, because I don't need to super reiterate everything you said. I mean, but literally, yeah, it's just Moff Gideon for me is just like, oh, you had so much time. You could have just done something with him. And he's just there. He just appears and disappears. I mean, even in this episode, he's like watching them on the screen and he's like, oh, I'm going to go get them. And then he disappears for like a solid 10 minutes. And then he's just like in the same room. And it's like, where did you go? Like he went and hid. Like, yeah, you're like, all right, I got to go wait for the door to open and then I'm going to kill them. You know what I mean? Like,
it was. Do you not know this is how bad guys work in Star Wars?
Right.
Like, if you know the person is coming, you can't it's like Palpatine in Rise of Skywalker. You know the people are coming, you have to set up your giant chorus. Right. Your audience in the auditorium.
Because I'm going to have a choir singing about how evil I am.
You can't maybe send all of those people to detain the people coming to kill you?
Right. I was like, the Praetorian Guards are literally there, like just chilling for no reason. So like maybe they go after him for you. Like it's just kind of like, why?
They're not chilling for no reason. They're hiding in between things in the smoke, waiting for their grand entrance so they can go menace a baby.
They're waiting for the chorals to start. That's when you know when you're a bad guy in Star Wars, you cannot enter until the chorus has started singing. That's how this works. It's like Darth Maul.
I feel like this is a good time to reiterate. I do like The Mandalorian. I did like this season, and I did enjoy this episode. However, there are other opinions.
No, of course. And I will say the one thing I did like, so just so people know I'm not super ragging on this show. I really, really like the solid, I think it's like 2.5 minutes of just jetpack fight that we have in this episode is so good. Everything about it, like the armor and like bow and then Casca, like all of that was like, oh, chef's kiss battle. Like, I loved that whole scene.
There's a particular thing I want to point out about that scene, but I want to point it out when we get there.
Okay.
It's also going to be
save it. I just want to say that I really liked it.
Theme of this episode.
Okay.
All right, Bradley, you want to take us into the words and sentences, the things that you say on the podcast, what that makes the people
Okay,
listen.
honey, drink your juice, shall we? Go.
I'll just drink my water.
Let's start the finale with, we begin with Bo-Katan leading the Mandalorians to safety. She contacts Axe Woves to have him warn the fleet about Moff Gideon, and Din is being escorted by his captors when he fights back. Just when he's about to go down, Grogu appears in the mecha suit and saves him. They agree it's time to take out Gideon once and for all. Title card, Chapter 24, The Return.
So I have a question.
Go right ahead with the question.
At what point, when did Mandalorian armor become rated for space travel? When did that happen?
How did you anticipate my literal first note?
I mean, I was like, oh, bless him. He's going to fucking die to deliver this message, to just get into the upper atmosphere where there is no oxygen and it is very cold, just so he can get the message out to the Mandalorian fleet. No, that's not. He's actually just going to fly all the way up. And I had to remind myself as I was like, what the fuck? There's like, you can see the skin on his neck. There's no seal. He's going to die.
They've said it will vacuum seal, but the production team didn't think to include that part.
I had to remind myself that just because it's never happened before doesn't mean it can't happen.
Right.
New feature. Sure. Fast and Furious Star Wars. Mandalorian suits are rated for way upper atmosphere, low orbit.
Of course,
travel.
It's a spacesuit. Sure,
it is now.
Yeah, right.
well, we know that Stormtrooper armor can seal for space. This is going to come up in
not
your coverage of
Stormtrooper
Rebels.
Not Stormtrooper armor. Clone Trooper armor. As far as I know right now, unless that changes over Rebels.
I think that may come up in Rebels. I think that was a Rebels recon question at one point.
Oh, okay.
Some Stormtroopers were out in space, and it's like, can they survive? And Pablo Hidalgo, the best person on the internet, pointed, and this is when I gained my respect for Pablo Hidalgo, was this moment. He pointed to the scene in A New Hope where the Falcon is coasting in to the hangar bay, and you can see a pair of Stormtroopers standing outside with what looks like oxygen tanks on their backs. And I'm like, how the fuck did you notice that, Pablo Hidalgo? Because I've seen that movie about 20 times and I didn't notice that.
But most Stormtroopers don't actually have the oxygen tank.
No, they don't.
And
so
Axe Woves definitely did not have an oxygen tank.
Yes, returning to Axe Woves, I have no fucking idea how he did that. That motherfucker just flies into low orbit.
Sure.
Right. And we talked about this in, I can't remember which episode it was. I think it was we were watching the episode The Foundling, and I talked about how when they were chasing after like the dragon thing, they like ran out of fuel after like an hour, however the fuck long they were flying after this thing. I'm like, okay, so does either Axe Woves just has an unlimited amount of tank fuel to get all the way up to upper atmosphere, or like they are just playing fast and loose with the rules of how much the jetpacks work.
Wait, you mean something that was a major like plot impacting device multiple episodes ago and might have been like a seed planted for something that would be a wrinkle in a future part of the plot, didn't get followed up on, and suddenly everybody has unlimited jetpack fuel in this episode? Is that where we're going with this?
Yeah, because it's just a little strange. I just thought it was weird. Like, one, he can get up to upper atmosphere with this jetpack, and then also this whole entire jetpack battle is going on for God knows how long. So do people just not lose the fuel? Like, oh, well, the battle's over. We all lost our fuel. Like, we can't keep going. Like, I don't understand how that works.
Here's what I want to know. How long were you holding on to that one? Because I remember you mentioning this in our Foundling covering. You were like, put a pin in that.
Put a pin in it. Like, here you go.
I guess we're pulling the pin out of the grenade.
Yeah, we have to do that a couple times this episode.
We do. We have several things that are going to come up again.
Now, I can, in the same breath that I say, oh, I guess everybody's got unlimited fucking jetpack fuel in this episode, I can also say that it's fucking cool that nobody had to stop and fucking refuel their jetpack in the middle of the fight.
What's What's that thing that y'all always say on Dark Side Divas and Marvelous Divas? Fast and Furious Star Wars?
Fast and Furious Star Wars.
You just gotta roll with it.
It's whatever the plot needs right now. And the plot needed jetpacks to run out of fuel, and the Foundling did not need anybody to run out of fuel in this episode.
Right.
Thanks, plot.
Right. I love
We
that.
love you, plot.
It's a helpful plot.
Jumping back onto the surface, Bo-Katan is directing everyone around. I just want to point out, there's going to be a running theme to my notes about this episode, which is women. Yes. Because it's just nice to see a lady military commander being treated fully with respect by the plot and by the people under her command in the context of the narrative.
Yeah. The competency boner for her is just like, like she's dungeon crawling and clearing corners and handling her weapons, etc., while also actively planning military strategy and conferring with Axe-Woes and everything. It just fucking, I love her.
I bring this up, and then later on when Den is like radioing in, it's just immediate, like, she is in command, here's what we're doing, okay, we'll go from there. Like, some dudes on Facebook, because it was dudes.
It's always
course
dudes.
it was dudes.
It's always dudes.
I remember we're talking about how, she's not a very competent. Sometimes I go into the comment sections on dudes just
because you need to raise your blood pressure?
Because I need to raise my blood pressure, and people are like, she's, not a competent military commander. She just done this and this and this and this. And I'm like, did we watch the same episode? Like, she clearly knows what she's doing, guys. Another thing that I want to point out is that with regards to our discussion last week, Bradley, on whether or not those are Beskar troopers, I did notice that the lasers do seem to bounce off of the armor that the stormtroopers are wearing.
And I noticed that in this episode, and I was like, they don't seem very effective to...
Yeah, almost like they're made of something reflecting.
It's Beskar alloy. I mean, later on, Moff Gideon says it's Beskar alloy. So it's got a high Beskar component, but it's not pure Beskar.
Now, the debate was actually on whether or not the stormtroopers have it.
Right.
We know Gideon does, but this sort of does answer the question that yes, also the stormtroopers, which I guess kind of explains back in episode 5 why there was a shard of Beskar alloy. Doesn't explain how Beskar breaks enough to leave a shard, but okay,
just let the plot happen.
Let the plot happen. I'm just gonna close my eyes and pretend I can't see. Just like Din Djarin's helmet that he apparently can't see shit out of.
Anytime we go to inside the helmet view, it's like, he can't see shit. He has no visibility on anything.
Yeah, I didn't understand why we saw that view, because one, I've always thought that like when they look out of that view, it's almost like looking through like a pair of like smart goggles or something. Like
there's like there's a HUD.
On the screen.
I also always assumed there was a HUD or something in there. Like,
so did they like turn off his helmet or something? Like it's like, no,
his helmet's just like that.
I know, it's so stupid. I don't get it.
It was a dumb shot. I disagree with the shot. Jon Favreau.
I do agree. I'm not a very good. I'm not a film editor. But yeah, that was a weird shot. I
have made 0 movies or TV shows. Cut that shot.
But you have taken one film editing class, and I know this because we sat next to each other or very close to each other in that class.
So we're basically experts on film editing.
Absolutely.
So,
yes. Well, Bradley is. I didn't finish the class.
Well, that's true.
That was the quarter I dropped out for good.
Nice.
Well, then there you go. So because I have a degree now and I took one class of film editing.
Hey, I also have a degree, just not that degree.
Right.
I have a degree in theater. Does that count?
I have a degree in screenwriting. That counts less.
No, but I did want to point out, there's this shot where Bo is going down the hallway and she likes looking with her guns, and she's checking the sides and everything. And I'm like 99% sure they just reuse a shot and flip it.
Yeah, almost certainly.
Like it's identical.
It's definitely the same set over and over, like they did on Farscape, where they had like one hallway and they recorded people running down the same hallway. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, how long is this hallway? Like a foot?
Yeah.
So flipping the shot and then reusing the same shot, otherwise known as the Marshall Lewis Marshall Lucas special.
Gotcha.
So you see, it's all just traditional Star Wars there.
It's all Star Wars.
Okay.
I'm going to allow that because it's a reference to the best editor in the history of the franchise.
Gotcha.
So, getting back to the armor real quick,
Yes.
because I observed these things very closely. I can't help but notice that Din Djarin has no groin protection on his armor, which, thank you for that.
It means the armor can stay on.
Exactly. But the troopers do. And so I'd never understood, because like why do you have Beskar on if you don't have Beskar on over some of your tenderest bits, such as your groin or, the very large blood vessels in that proximity in the blood? Like it seems to me to be a glaring omission in the armor.
Right there.
Yeah,
Because there are arteries just right there. You will die in a minute.
Let me see if I can find a good, because he has like thigh plates. I know,
but they're on his quads. They're protecting his muscle, not his blood vessels. It's fucking weird. Look,
I'm literally looking at my Black Series figure of him now. You're right. Yeah, he doesn't have a cod piece, which is interesting. And it's like even regular, like, aren't the Mandalorians even based on like knights of some kind? So like, wouldn't they have some kind of piece down there anyway?
And they did. Like, clone trooper armor is based on Mandalorian armor.
Right.
They've all got cod pieces, much to my frustration. And so, and Mandalorians, like early seasons, Mando had like part of his chest piece at least extended down a bit and covered that. But no, he's just flapping free in the breeze. I'm concerned for him.
Yeah, this is a question I have no answer to.
I don't know how to explain that, but other than just, that's a thing.
It's just brown pants, man.
It's
just brown pants. Yeah.
That is a crippling error in design.
And it
it's
absolutely
just so he
could
can use
be.
the refresher easier, Like,
there you go.
It is also possible, that he just never takes it off, so it's just in there for easy access to the refresher,
which again,
something else.
I appreciate. However, in combat situations, I feel like this is a bad thing.
Better theory. He has a Beskar jockstrap under there. And so it's just a giant piece in the front.
Somebody goes to knee him in the crotch and they break their kneecap off.
Exactly. Perfect.
I'm here for it.
That's my headcanon. He has a jockstrap made of Beskar.
Headcanon accepted. There you go.
You just want to see any of the three men that could be occupying the suit in a jockstrap.
Of course.
Yeah. But also, now that means, though, that at some point the armor had to fit him for his Beskar jockstrap.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. And so that means she's got those measurements on file somewhere. I'm just saying.
She sure does.
I can't even segue into the next bit. I'm just going to go straight into it. I'm just going to plow right ahead. Like I would like to do to the Mandalorian.
Like a Beskar jockstrap. There you go.
Normally, I wouldn't phrase it this way, but in honor of Stephanie being here, I would like to add a new counter to the show.
Okay.
The flamethrower didn't do shit counter.
It really didn't do shit.
I took careful note. Oh no, it made things worse. Okay, so the trooper blasts him with the flamethrower when he's up against the wall. Mm-hmm. The other trooper tries to shoot him and misses because he's recoiling from the flamethrower that the first trooper was shooting at him. So actually, the wrist-mounted flamethrower was not only useless, it was actively detrimental to their efforts.
In that moment, I chalk that up to the troopers not really knowing what to do with it.
I will give you
this is true, yeah. Mm-hmm. They probably haven't had a lot of time to combat train in these new outfits.
And honestly, flamethrowers are fucking cool. And he was just like, yeah, somebody use the flamethrower. Fuck you, Billy, shoot him later. Right now.
Well, then it turns around and bites them in the ass again because Billy doesn't know how to turn his goddamn flamethrower off, and so Din gets his hand and shoots the other trooper with it. And it does kind of do something because it makes him recoil, but as we've established in the last episode, it doesn't cause any damage whatsoever. It just makes him stop for 2 seconds. So that is the presence of the flamethrower. I'm going to call that 2 dings on the flamethrower does fucking nothing counter.
I really think it's not the flamethrowers' fault. They are misapplying them. The flamethrowers were designed to be used against Jedi because lightsaber this motherfucker. But now they're just like, I got this fucking flamethrower. There's no Jedi, so I guess burn you. That didn't do anything. Like,
So hold on. So what you're saying is that flamethrower uselessness and stormtrooper uselessness can combine into ultra uselessness.
Yes.
I like it.
Absolutely.
Because these stormtroopers are not the last Imperials we're gonna see use a flamethrower in this episode.
Yeah.
We're gonna come back.
So real quick, with no segue at all. So the way Din and Grogu interact at the end of this, when Grogu fucking saves his ass, because Din doesn't have like a thing to protect his neck at all. Like that's just, there's no Achilles heel on Mandalorian armor. It's an Achilles throat. It's just right there. It's the throat. Anyway, fucking. He talks to Grogu like Grogu's a baby, but he talks to him about grown-up shit. Because he's like, hey, buddy, I'm going to need you to be real brave for me, okay? Let's go kill a motherfucker. And Grogu's like, uh-huh.
He's like, yes.
Their relationship is so weird.
I mean, he is like 50 years old, so I guess it's not that weird. I mean, but
and bloodthirsty apex predator type 50-year-old infant.
Right. Of
So,
course.
okay.
Let me ask you, because of the 3 people presently in the Zoom call, you are the one with children.
It is true.
If you were in a situation like this, how would you talk to a child that you know can at least comprehend what you're saying? Like, we know Grogu can at least comprehend what's going on around him. Would this be the best way to do it, where you're like, hey, real talk, we need to deal with this right now?
I would send that baby somewhere else. I'd be like, take your little mech suit and go wait in the car.
Right.
Mommy's got to go murder somebody real quick. I need you to put your noise canceling headphones on in place of Angry Birds and pretend this isn't happening. Okay? Okay. But Mandalorians aren't like that. All Mandalorians are deadly at every age. And so that's their culture. I am not a Mandalorian. So.
And we will see later in the episode that Grogu does contribute to some people getting violently killed.
Yeah, that's what he does. And that's why I was at no point in this episode worried for Grogu at all. Because that's a really big gun in this whole fight.
Do you know what had me not worried about Grogu at all in this episode? So if we just go to starwars.com/shop, we will see the reason why they're probably not going to do anything to Grogu.
Yeah, that was my thought process. I mean, not to jump ahead, but like when he's by himself at one point and he's in trouble, I was just like, there are no stakes here.
No, he's fine.
We know Grogu is fine.
He's just here to humiliate them.
Right. He will either A, just, destroy them himself, or B, do ex machina, whatever will happen, and then he will literally be fine, because that's how Grogu works. You cannot A, kill Grogu, and B, you can't hurt Grogu. It's not going to happen ever.
He can tucker himself out. That's about as close as he gets.
Some people have theorized, I don't know how much I believe it, but there is a theory going around that the Mandalorian can't do things like that because it's under much more strict oversight from the executives in terms of what it can and cannot do. Versus something like Andor, which is awards bait and can do whatever it wants. And I can kind of see that a little bit with the writing of Grogu, but I also feel like even the creatives love Grogu so much, they're not going to do anything to him.
No, Grogu's fine. And I like knowing that Grogu's fine. Like, I see him get, separated off and do another. He's fine. He's fine. Can we focus on somebody else? We'll get back to him being cute and deadly in a minute. But anyway, that's later in the episode.
Rogue One and Return of the Jedi are both good movies. I watch them for different reasons. My final little detail about the scene before we move on to the next one is I do note that Grogu's first reaction is to spray Din with the same spray that is still in IG-12's hand from back in season 1.
Except it doesn't do anything if you just spray his armor.
No,
I'm pretty sure it needs to come in contact with your flesh a little bit. But
points for trying.
he's a baby. He's just a little murder baby. He doesn't know.
Oh my god.
In his 7-foot tall mech suit.
You know who needs to be in the same room? Grogu and Chopper. We know this can happen because Chopper's gonna be in Ahsoka. So I'm just saying, we get those two in a room together. First Order's done. We've solved that problem immediately.
Which is why they can never meet, because they will be such a beautiful team of chaos and destruction. No, they can never meet. It's like Anakin and Grievous all through Clone Wars. They'll just be two ships passing. They'll never actually see each other.
Is Grievous? No, Grievous is not unconscious during the episode where they have the prisoner exchange. Anakin is.
Right.
But I don't think Grievous is not. So Grievous has seen Anakin, but Anakin hasn't seen Grievous.
Correct.
I don't know. I'm thinking too much about Clone Wars again. See, now I'm thinking, oh, maybe I want to rewatch some episodes of Clone Wars when I finish the show I'm currently watching, which is Game of Thrones, and I'm in the last season, and it's very bad.
You can stop anytime. There's nobody with a gun to your head making you watch fucking Game of Thrones.
If I wasn't so close to the ending, there's an audio drama that some people did where they rewrote the last season, and I was refreshing myself. So I'm curious. I will probably never watch the show again if we're being entirely honest.
So when you get paper cuts, do you immediately go start slicing lemons? Is this just like how you
sometimes
you
I
live?
plunge my hand directly into vats of lemon juice. Like I go and find freshly squeezed lemon juice and just jam my whole hand down in there.
Yeah. And then salt straight in your eyes. Yeah.
Yes. You have to put your whole head down in it, like down in the salt.
I'm just saying, you don't have to keep watching that fucking show. That character assassination, that misogyny splooge fest of a final season. Fuck that show.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
Anyway.
If this audio drama turns out to be good, I may just tell people, never watch the final season. Just watch this.
It didn't happen.
But we'll see.
Unaccepted.
Up next, Din contacts Bo-Katan. He has found Grogu and plans to take on Gideon. Then, Gideon's TIE interceptors and bombers depart the base to attack the fleet. Gideon watches Din's movements. He decides to take the Mandalorian on himself. Elsewhere in the base, Din contacts R5-D4 and has him infiltrate the base and find the location of Gideon's command center, transmitting the coordinates to Din. Meanwhile, Axe Woves contacts the fleet and evacuates the troops to use the capital ship as a decoy. He takes the helm and they complete the evacuation just as the TIE fighters launch their attack.
Can we take just a brief moment to appreciate when Gideon puts his helmet on, he has the resonating evil Star Wars voice?
Oh my god. Oh my god. Giancarlo Esposito's voice was made for the helmet filter.
It really was. I love the filter on it.
It's so good. It's so good. Vader could never. It's so good.
The fact it's only in this one episode is a crime.
It's a fucking crime.
It is a crime.
Oh, I hate it.
It's such a wonderful, he's such a good villain. I kind of hope he isn't dead.
He's not dead.
I kind of hope he isn't.
He was just engulfed in flames. He's not dead.
Yeah,
you know how I feel about Phasma, so
that
not
is
dead.
true.
Not
That is
dead.
true.
Not
if
dead.
Phasma can still come back,
Right.
then Gideon can always come back.
Of course.
Yup. So, speaking of Gideon, when he's watching the screen and he's tracking Mando and Grogu, I did a legit spit take, even on the rewatch, because I forgot about it. Mando's a big red dot. Grogu's a little green dot.
Of course,
On the
because that
screen.
just, I feel like he had to go in there and change the settings for that.
You
to
know
happen.
he did. He was like, there's a
He had
slider
to.
for this, all the way
Right.
to the left. All
He
the way.
manually coordinated, like, okay, I know these two assholes are going to show up at some point. He seems genuinely surprised to see Bo-Katan. He seems genuinely not to care about any of the other Mandalorians, but he has special little dots. These two motherfuckers.
And Grogu's is little and green. Teeny tiny dot. Fucking hilarious. So when he puts his helmet on and he gives us the voice of Evil Heaven, that I love so much. Do we think that Moff Gideon understands the cultural implications of the little horns on his helmet?
No.
Or does he just think they look cool?
He just thinks they look cool because he's an appropriating piece of shit asshole who just does the things that he thinks are nifty and neat and look cool and doesn't give a damn about the history or culture that he's appropriating. Appropriating! That was the word I was looking for last episode. He's an appropriating piece of shit.
Because I really think if he thought about it for 2 seconds, like the armorer, who I'm not sure he's laid eyes on or not, has them because it's a whole Mandalorian thing. Like there's a whole schism in the Mandalorian culture that happened that was denoted by these horns. And like, he's just like, fucking horns look badass. Like,
That's exactly what he
I
used them for.
fully believe that is why he did that. Just because he's an asshole.
he is an asshole. And I really want him to survive because I want him to show up in Ahsoka and I want him and Thrawn to meet.
Oh no.
Because as we know Thrawn from Rebels, he understands all the deep nuance and implications and everything of all the cultures that he destroys and subjugates. Like he gets it. He knows everything about all of your little details. He crushes you under his boot anyway.
Yeah, he's still a fascist.
Yeah.
But he's a fascist with, like, the ability to read a
With
book.
taste. beast.
He craves knowledge, and Gideon just craves cool and power and being
Cool power,
awesome.
yeah.
I still love Gideon though.
I also love Gideon. I would like to read my next note verbatim.
Oh my.
As I watch Stef's face. R5 to the rescue. Shame he's just an appliance with no personality and doesn't get scared of heights.
Oh! So Bradley, if you don't know the context of this, listeners, if you don't know the context of this, I had some motherfucker on my TikTok comment on a video from back when we were covering Solo. So this is like months ago at this point, about how they filmed L337 on the set of Solo: A Star Wars Story. That's what the video was about. And he jumps on there and he's like, droids don't get rights because they're just appliances. Like,
literal appliances was the exact wording that was used.
They're literal appliances. Like, you look Chopper in the eye and tell him he's an appliance.
Right.
Who the fuck are you? So I made a little video. I was like, here are all of these droids that I love so much. Of course, they're not fucking appliances. And R5D4 is one of them. I had 60 seconds for this fucking video, so I didn't get into it. But yeah, no, R5D4, aside from just the personality that he's showing in this episode, where he is legitimately nervous, he is emoting with nobody around to see it. So he's literally just talking to himself. He's also been around since for fucking ever.
Yeah, he's been around since the 70s.
He's
so
old. He's been around since 1977.
Yeah, because he's in A New Hope. But
Right.
also in the Star Wars timeline, he's been around since the prequel era. You can see him bebopping around in the background when Anakin goes back to Tatooine to rescue his mom and ends up just murdering a bunch of Tuskens instead.
I did not know that. That definitely leads credence to the theory that the rebellion stuff was after or before.
After the prequels? Yes, it certainly was.
Well, after
because you have to, the Empire has to rise first, and then there's a rebellion.
There was some question on when his service to the rebellion actually was, but anyway, please continue.
I think his service to the rebellion really was at its most its most altruistic when he got together with a bunch of other droids and recorded a Christmas album.
Oh, for
called Christmas in the Stars. R5D4 is in that. He is name checked. I believe at one point he gets hugged by a Wookiee who is invisible at the time. And that's all in the album. They're contemplating, what do you get for a Wookiee for Christmas when he already owns a comb? These are the big questions that they ask on Christmas in the Stars. I do not recommend Christmas in the Stars unless you grew up with it and have nostalgia for it, which is what my husband did, which is why I even know about this album. He grew up with it, and so now we as a family listen to Christmas in the Stars every Christmas, and it's also where John Bon Jovi had his first musical debut. So there you go.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
What? Oh,
John Bon Jovi has a song on the Christmas in the Stars album.
See, I was not going to go look for this because I did make the mistake of joining the Divas watch-along for the holiday special.
Mm-hmm. This is a different thing. It's not even associated with the holiday special.
So now
they're talking about Christmas. Christmas.
Right, they're not talking about Life Day. They're talking
it's
about
not Life
Christmas.
Day. It's Christmas. And of course, it's actually Anthony Daniels on there because there's a paycheck involved. So of course he's there.
That is his job.
That's all he does.
Man got a job in 1977 and has had that same job to this day.
I mean, we should all be so lucky, right?
Right.
But yeah, no, this is R5D4. He's a fucking legend. He's one of those quiet background legends, and he's not a literal appliance. He's a person.
He's a person that's scared of height.
And he is one of 2 droids in the entire galaxy that Din Djarin likes even a little. So I think that's prestigious as fuck.
My final note on this sequence is, so Axe jumps into the ship and is like, hey, everybody get the fuck off this ship. I'm going to hold and maneuver this bitch at some point.
It was really slick how he did it too. Do you see him? Like he,
yeah.
Forgiving the fact that he could breathe. He gets there, just hits the ground running and goes. Later, we see other Mandalorians try to do the same maneuver and just fucking eat shit, trying to get onto drop ships and just fall over. So Axe was hot.
But he's like, everyone get off this ship. And so my question was, in the last episode, we saw the armorer requesting permission to dock with a bunch of wounded people from the surface.
Fuck
Where
'em.
did those people go?
I was just about to bring this up because I was like, only like 8 people jump off this ship, and I'm like, all right, so the rest of them are just chilling on the.
But no, the rest of them are like a
just
swarm of bees coming off, and they all get into the boat. I don't know where the fuck the armor is the whole time.
From the light cruiser
Right.
to the gauntlet fighters and the like stuff that's down. You know what I'm trying to say.
Right, but practicality-wise, let's all leave the giant bus-like ship and go to the tiny little Corvette-like ship that are super tiny, can only fit like 10 people max. And it's like, but there's how many, God willing, of us like to be on this ship, plus the people who have like broken legs for some reason. And like, I don't understand where they went.
I don't know.
Or they're still on the ship and he crashes it with the people who are in the med bay
fuck
just chilling.
They're broken anyway.
Right.
Fuck them.
That's what the Legends Mandalorians probably would have done.
I have a line in my notes that apparently was written while they were all flying out of the capital ship and going to the drop ships. It says, "Does their hotness give them extra oxygen?" Is that what it is? That's what it is.
Yes.
All Mandalorians are hot. That gives them an increased oxygen. something.
I have just chosen to accept this as canonical fact. Now, I'm sure some ship nerd out there was screaming internally when Bradley was like, "Oh, they only fit like 10 people." I'm not a ship nerd and I don't care. But I do see you and hear you, random ship nerd that's now screaming.
Shit nerd.
Shit nerd. No, I'm a shit nerd. Weekly, when I annoy Chris by providing all sorts of corrections to him and fun facts and trivia about the Dark Side Divas episodes. Now, if you want to listen to, or if you want to
oh my
watch
God,
that
are you about to plug my own
commentary-
Patreon on your show?
I am. You can go to patreon.com/Divas Podcast and join the Divas Discord where you can watch me annoy Chris weekly. And that's how you do a Patreon plug for a show that's not even yours.
Thank you for demonstrating that, Charles.
I've gotten really good at plugging that specific Patreon because it triggers Chris's imposter syndrome when I do it.
And fuck him. He's off in Paris right now being gay at Disney. Fuck him. He
is
can get
off in
triggered all
Paris.
day.
Everyone's mad at him. Everyone's mad at him for this. He gets to go to Paris. He gets to go to Disney. He gets to get wine drunk in Paris. He gets to not be in the United States.
Right?
I love
Got
that
all these
for
rights
him.
and shit.
Right? He could probably, if something were to happen to him, he were to get injured, he could go to a hospital, probably.
For like $1. Yeah.
For like $1? I think
that's
it's confusing
how that works,
and
right?
foreign to me.
I assume so. I just assume I know everything about European culture, and that is that everything is free, especially healthcare.
Especially
so I'm just
healthcare.
like, oh yeah. So I'm just like, oh yeah, you break your leg, it's like $50. Like, who cares? Like, whatever. Like, no.
Yeah, just go get it done. Yeah.
Right.
It's a one-stop shop.
That's why you travel and you're fine.
Which is probably where they took the wounded from the light cruiser.
Hey,
They
there
took
they
them
go.
to Europe to get the
Nice
free
segue
health.
back in.
There we go.
And that's how you do a segue back in.
I was briefly concerned for Axwos, but only briefly. He's too pretty to die. That's all that is.
I mean, and he's also like a character who speaks, so most of the time I feel like they're fine. You know what I mean? Like,
all those non-speaking broken Mandos
Yeah,
who
yeah,
just
those
apparently
people
just
can
got
die,
booted out
like,
of an
whatever.
airlock.
Yeah, you know who I haven't seen again? Twink Mandalorian. We don't
Which
see
one
him
was it?
again.
The one who you think is Corky?
One who we think is Corky. A really well-aged Corky. Even though
It's not
should
Corky.
be like 40.
It's not Corky. We're never getting Corky Kreese. It's never happening. Sorry.
Well, in order to get Corky Kreese, they would probably have to acknowledge Satine Kreese exists.
exactly.
And they won't do that.
They will not do that. The closest we're going to get is that Lizzo's character is called the Duchess.
there you go.
And maybe kind of sort of has a color scheme that invokes.
And I love her.
I'm just saying, Mando season 4, if Nicole Kidman just randomly appears on screen, all of a sudden I'm gonna be like, now.
I will die on the hill that Nicole Kidman is the perfect casting for Satine Kreese. I will die on this hill. Because she
Okay.
played Satine in Moulin Rouge.
You go ahead and die on that hill, honey.
I
Have you
will
seen
die
Nicole
on it.
Kidman lately? There's been years and medical procedures since Moulin Rouge. That's not her face anymore. Now, I love her, and everybody's allowed to age in their own special way. But Kate Blanchett's right there.
Which one looks more like Katie Sackhoff? Better question, because they have to be related. So
Kate
I'm just
Blanchett.
gonna say,
It's Kate
there you go.
Kate Blanchett.
I
The character model for her in Clone Wars was based on Kate Blanchett.
I will accept Kate Blanchett without complaint, but I personally would like Nicole Kidman. It's just me.
I think that they should fight for it. We should get to sell tickets.
Literally fight. Yes.
Yes. In which case, my money's still on Kate Blanchett. She mean. Anyway.
Back at the base, Din and Grogu reach the command center and have R5 deactivate the barrier shields one by one as Din takes on the armored commandos. After he defeats them all, Din makes his way into Gideon's laboratory, which is full of tanks containing clones of Gideon. Din tampers with the control, causing the tanks to explode. Meanwhile, the survivor captain leads Kryze and the Mandos into a lush surface cave full of plants. The captain explains that his people planted these farms. The armorer contacts Bo via comm to let her know that reinforcements have arrived, and the group heads off to take the planet back. Together, the Mandalorians fly to the chasm above the Imperial base and battle the armored commandos.
So my only note about the hallway scene is this shit slaps.
It's a really good sequence.
It's a really good sequence.
I really like it. I love that Din goes in there unarmed and he's like, I will use your knife when you're done with it. And he's just he's like a D&D player. He's gathering loot as he goes along.
As he goes, yeah. He's like, oh, now I got a shield. Oh, now I got an electro thing. And it's like, all right, we're good.
My favorite moment is in the fight with the first two, which, by the way, why are your first two guys in the hallway only armed with knives? All they had was knives.
It's a level thing, you know.
Because when you're a BBEG, you have to put your like level 1 goons out front.
Those guys were like goblins. Yeah.
And then like level 2 goons a little further back, and then maybe you go level 5, and then maybe you go level 8.
Because you got to upgrade as he goes along.
As he goes.
Yeah.
Right.
You can't
that's
put
fair.
the Nazgul out front, right?
But-
That's just bad liching.
You got to soften them up all the way up there. But my favorite thing is in that first little exchange with the first two guys. They're on an elevated something because the guy falls off. One of the troopers falls off with a dagger, his own knife buried in his neck right then. And Din tries to grab it before the guy falls and he misses.
And he misses, right? And he's like, God damn it.
He's so frustrated. Meanwhile, poor R5D4 is being harassed by mouse droids.
Who have sirens, apparently.
Yeah, well, we've never seen what happens other than mouse droids squeaking and running away when they find you. Apparently, they set off alarms and bring other mouse droids.
They get a whole pack of mouse droids.
And that's it. All they do is make noise at you. Like, R5D4 also not in any danger. He was fine.
Yeah, he was kind of like more annoyed than he was like, because he like zaps the one and he's just like, all right, like let's get ready. I actually, when he flies away, one of them falls off the edge.
R5 has a body count now.
Right.
That body count is 1 mouse droid, but it's there.
It's there. He can sit at the table with Chopper now. He's got a body count. God damn it. Oh, I really love that sequence though. That was really good. I love it when they just let Din Djarin fucking work. Because it's so good. It's like, can we just stop trying to do every other goddamn thing in this episode? Every time it happens. When they did the prison break thing, and it was just Din in a hallway, just whooping all the ass and stuff. Just every time, I'm just like, this is my happy place. So much serotonin from this one metal man's violence. I love him.
I like how this is like the perfect blend of everything that makes Star Wars good. Because you've got some action, you've got some character catharsis from R5 being able to do his thing and overcome his fears. You have the little comedy moments with the mouse droids, but you still have an air of tension because, Din messes up some of his moves. He doesn't do everything perfectly. So, like, there's that underlying tension to where he's not going to fuck up and fall into the pit, but he might. And that's always there. It's like this beautiful, this is how you do a Star Wars action scene. This right here, this is how you do it. It's so good.
Complete with the doors from Phantom Menace.
Complete with the doors.
Yeah.
Doors that make no sense. But
I love watching the troopers in the next chamber. The troopers in the next chamber are just watching their dudes get fucking slaughtered. And they're like,
they're just kind of like waiting. They're just like, all right.
Open the door, can't open the door. Okay, cool. Right. Okay. It's awesome.
Which is why it doesn't make sense to have them. Because what if like one of them's like, oh, you know what? I really could use the restroom right now. Or I guess the refresher in this.
No.
It's like,
that's why they have cod pieces on their arm.
Yeah. You have to piss your pants right there.
Well,
that's why the berries are there. So Gideon doesn't smell them as he goes by.
Yeah, we saw in the last episode, I didn't point it out, but we saw that like they just stand there in the ray shields all day.
Menacingly.
That's their thing. They just stand there menacingly.
Just a 12-hour shift.
We buy them.
Yeah, just standing there.
Speaking of Moff Gideon, let's shift gears for a minute. So Din killing all of the clones, that's actually super fucked up, right?
It's actual murder.
Because we have established multiple times in Star Wars that with the exception of when you literally have a spirit body hopping inside of your clone and possessing it, clones have free will. There's absolutely nothing to say that these clones would act like Moff Gideon if they were given the chance not to.
I think we have to assume that Moff Gideon, with his association with the Empire, having at his age, he definitely grew up through the Clone Wars. He was aware of that entire situation. I think we have to assume that when he made his clones, he made them biddable and obedient if they have any personality at all. Like he wants them, because we'll find out later when he has his big like fucking tear at his own clothes moment where he's just fucking Shakespearean all about it, that he wants, his clones to have the ability to use the Force. But he also needs to be in charge of them because he's Moff Gideon. So if you make clones of yourself, but your clones of yourself can use the Force, the only way you can be in charge of them is if you made them idiots too.
Yeah, that's very true, because why would you, as the non-perfect specimen version of yourself that you've clearly made, because he said they're the enhanced, they're better, whatever. So why are you now the leader of them, the weaker or the not alpha, essentially?
Clones would overthrow you.
Right.
I have sort of a proposal for an answer to this, and that is Gideon is just that arrogant. He really genuinely thinks that he will be able to control this army of Force-sensitive him clones. Or at the very least, that they will all work together and link hands and go skipping off into an Imperial ascendant future.
So, do you guys ever see the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie with The Secret of the Ooze, where they make Toka and Razor, the two little guys? No? Where they make these big, powerful monsters, and Shredder's like, yes, these are my monsters and I will unleash them, but they're babies. Like, they literally call him Mama, and just like, but they're massive and they're monsters, but they're just like, meh, and everything. God, am I that much older than you two? Don't answer that. Anyway.
If it helps, we both grew up in very sheltered households. Yeah. It is not surprising that we haven't seen a movie from pre-2000 that we probably should have.
Too liberal for us, so we can't do
It's
nice. Good job. Makes me feel better.
It's far too...
I'm not recommending this movie at all, okay? To be clear. But I just love the idea that maybe if those clones had done what I wanted them to do, which was bust out of there, and we have big, massive, wet, naked clones of Giancarlo Esposito fight, which is what I was hoping for, if they had just been like, just drooling idiots, that would have been great. But no.
I feel like it's interesting you talking about like things that you had hoped for. I do feel like my other issue with this sequence, in addition to the fact that those are sentient beings that Din just murdered without a second thought, is that I feel like this culmination of Din destroying Gideon's master plan should maybe have had a bit more weight. But then I counterpointed myself by going, isn't it the most Din-jarring thing to stumble upon the villain's master plan, break it, and then keep going without even realizing you just did it?
Yeah, because he's not in a Star Wars. He doesn't know. He has no idea. But also, I like that you're like, he murdered them. He's a bounty hunter. How many people has he killed in the last 3 seasons? Okay? Din Djarin's a killer. They all are. Grogu's a killer. Everybody in this show is a killer, with the notable exception of the Duchess and Captain Bombardier.
I accept this logic without any sort of rebuttal.
That's how I like it. So can we talk about this cave garden that they go to?
That was my next note, and I was going to segue into it because I sensed that after doing all of Clone Wars, you would have some thoughts on the fact that plants grow on Mandalore. You just have to leave them alone for 5 goddamn minutes.
So my notes say life finds a way, I guess.
Perfection.
It's very much. No, it's really cool. It is really cool from a post Clone Wars getting into Rebels perspective from Darkside Divas to see that things are growing on Mandalore. Like, that's fucking cool. And it was such a pretty set as well. So I liked that. And I see that that was definitely there as a crumb for viewers like me, to be like, oh, thank God. Okay, the planet's not completely dead. But also, I don't feel like that scene needed to be in this episode, because it was supposed to be like we're going to go hole up somewhere in the super secret place on the surface. We literally spend real time. I checked 1 minute and 24 seconds in this cave.
It's nothing. Like, it's just like, here we are. Okay, let's go fight now. Like,
100% Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, probably Dave Filoni, being like, I need to throw this thing in here really fast. Because it is thematically resonant. Like, so here's my issue with this, right? It's a beautifully thematically resonant scene. The idea is that the Jedi came in and bombed the planet to hell. And I do believe it was the Jedi that did
the first
this.
time.
The first
time. And then
time.
they bombed themselves.
And made it so that nothing could grow outside of the domed cities, allegedly. But the Mandalorians just keep bombing themselves and having these civil wars over and over again. And when they finally break this cycle, when they finally work together and they're in a situation where they come together as a unified people, possibly for the first time in their history, their planet is finally able to heal and grow beyond. A beautifully resonant scene that means fucking nothing in the context of the show by itself, and you needed to have watched all of Clone Wars and Rebels to get.
Exactly. See, it's so, and I think that's why it's so fucking brief in this episode, because they're like, we really want to do this, but like we got other shit we're doing in this episode. I feel like it would have been more resonant last episode.
Right.
Or maybe
when they found them and like they could have explained like, oh, how did you survive? This is how we survived.
It's just
like,
right here. It's just these fucking massive farms and gardens and treaty things. Or maybe, Din and Grogu would have found it when he went down to go find the fucking water, because there was in fact a bunch of fucking water down there.
Right.
And Bo-Katan, in going in there to rescue him, could have been like, oh, a garden. Oh, I am absorbing this. And this is what moves me towards the positive association with the Mandalorians coming together, because I have just seen what happens when we quit fucking fighting each other. Our own planet can heal, etc., etc. It felt very sort of slapped on to this episode.
Or there's 18 fucking Return of the King endings to this shit anyway. Slap it on the ending.
Right?
Have Bo-Katan in the armor light the forge, and then the next scene is the captain showing Bo-Katan, hey, so stuff grows here apparently, and Bo-Katan's like, cool. And that's even a resonant ending to her character arc, that not only did she light the forge, but now she's coming and she's saying, oh, I am being rewarded for my faith, because there's an overarching theme of faith in this show. I am being rewarded for my faith in the Mandalorians with proof that the planet can be healed. It's frustrating, because this is such a cool moment if you've invested a ton of time in Mandalorians, and a fucking nothing burger if you haven't.
Exactly. Because it's really brief and just sort of like a moment if you aren't us.
I do have to do something that I really, as a man on the internet, I hate doing this. But I feel it is my duty to do so. I would like to issue a personal apology to the armorer for ever having doubted you.
Fuck that. I want Jon Favreau to apologize to the armorer for setting her up, because that's what I listened to y'all's last episode where you're like, why was this episode called The Spies? It was a bluff. It was a fake. It was to spin off a week's worth of fan theories and conversations in between episodes. That's all it was. If they released all these episodes at the same time in one big release, that episode would not have been called The Spies.
Somebody suggested as like, hey, you could name it after the spies from the Book of Numbers. And Jon Favreau went, I could do that. And I could also get a week's worth of clickbait articles out of it.
Yeah.
And Twitter engagement.
Because you have the armorer, who has always been a little bit odd and a little bit sketchy this whole fucking time. She fucking leaves the planet. She's like, I got the survivors, I'm out, peace. She leaves, and that's the end of the episode of The Spies. So I had a theory. I was like, no, that's it. She's working with Thrawn. They're going to do that thing that they've been doing through all of these fucking Disney Plus shows, where they tie in the next series they're going to do with this one. And so we're going to have like a little like glimpse of Thrawn perhaps up in space or something. I suspected her so hard, and I'm so mad at myself for being manipulated by Jon fucking Favreau.
And the worst part is that we've now gone back and watched the entire season again, having, with the knowledge of this finale, the armorer goes through a character arc. She goes through this arc of accepting that she's not always completely right about the way to be a Mandalorian, and that she can work with other people, and that there can be coexistence in the Mandalorians. She has to break that down internally, and it's communicated almost entirely through Emily Swallows' performance.
Yeah, she's
almost
excellent.
Entirely through that.
She's
If you
excellent.
watch it with the knowledge that she is going to ultimately help, it's so clear in hindsight. But she has horns on her helmet, and she spent the last 2 seasons being a cult leader, and the episode is called The Spies.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't watch this last episode, like the finale that we're just watching now, if you watch The Spies, you see armor, and then when you see Gideon's helmet for the first time, you're like, oh shit, they're working together. Like this is like they are together. Like this is like they're either romantically together because why not, or they are literally like the horns make them together. Like it just does.
The horns mean evil.
Yes. Obviously, every time.
Yeah, that's been all the way since, Darth Maul was first created. And so, yeah, again, for us, for those of us who have watched all of Clone Wars and have gone through Rebels and all of these things, we know what it means when you see a Mandalorian with horns on their helmet. And we know that that's not a good thing. And so, there's reason to be suspicious of her this whole time. And just, again, I'm just mad that fucking Favreau got me. I'm just mad. And did he get me, or did he set up something he didn't bother trying to pay off in this finale episode? Is it because I'm a rube, or is it because he's a lazy ass?
I know which one of those I agree with.
Leave it at that. But having her come back with the reinforcements was cool. That was nice.
Sure.
Which leads us directly into Bo-Katan leading them with the Darksaber in a jetpack fucking Charge of the Rohirrim moment.
That was the Star Warsiest shit, man. I fucking love it.
She raises the Darksaber in front of her, and I was like, yeah, no, this.
Leading the Mandalorians to retake their planet with the Darksaber held high.
John, I accept your season-long apology for what you did to Bo-Katan in season 2. I accept this season-long apology for that.
It was a good thing. And I do love that when they go into the fight after this, like, because the armorer comes and flies down and is right next to her, and they're like, it's ladies, and they're leading the charge, and they're going in. The armorer's got a hammer and tongs.
Yep. She always does.
And we'll come back to that in a couple of notes.
I can love it. Okay. Anyway, I think that's all I got.
My only note for that sequence is fuck yes. So
Yeah.
I wasn't capable of being articulate. It's just, you know what? This show has managed to do something I didn't think was possible. Something that is a miracle, something that is the magic of Star Wars.
Got you to shut the fuck up?
No, I said a miracle, not the second coming of Christ. No, it undid the damage that Karen Travis did and got me to give a shit about the Mandalorians.
Who's Karen Travis?
A person I do not like. I'm surprised you actually no, wait, my brain just clicked. Are you trying to get me to complain about Karen Travis?
I don't know who Karen Travis is. I honestly don't know who you're talking about. Is this an author?
And I'm kind of surprised because it actually is one of the quickest ways to summon me to your Discord is for someone to mention Karen Travis, and I will pop in and be like, ugh, her. So Karen Travis, quickly, because we don't have a lot of time.
Because he's already explained this once
Quickly.
Show.
Karen Travis was an author who did Star Wars books, and she did the Republic Commando novelizations.
I don't read Star Wars books.
Okay.
Sorry.
She did the Republic Commando novelizations. She created a lot of the pre-Clone Wars Mandalorian culture. Okay. So a lot of the Mandalorian cosplayers and things that you see, but also a lot of the Legends stuff for the Mandalorians, she created that. Mm-hmm. I don't like it. I think it's weird, toxic masculinity. I also don't like her very much as a personality and the way she interacts with people.
Fair.
She famously was going to write a series of books on Imperial Commando, and she walked away from it because she was mad that George Lucas didn't use all of her Mandalorian ideas exactly as she wrote them. And I'm like, we don't have time to get into that. She hilariously wrote the Clone Wars novelization, and according to Wyatt, who was a guest on episode 3, there was some weird bits where Pelion tells Ahsoka to put on a shirt or something. It's very odd, but basically I didn't like her version of the Mandalorians very much, and it has tainted my view of Mandalorians, and now this show has made me emotionally care about the Mandalorians as a people.
That's what you get for reading Star Wars books.
That is what I get for reading.
This is your own fault. You did this to yourself.
That is what I did.
been saying that for a long time, and then he's like, no, we'll just read this one. Oh, we'll just read this one.
I
Just
curate
read
the
this
good
one.
ones for you, right?
With the
true.
exception of Dark Disciple stands.
I have Bradley out here reading Thrawn. I have him reading Dark Disciple. I have him reading Phasma. I'm not recommending Freefall to him. I'm not recommending Heir to the Jedi to him. No. Bradley gets the good ones from me. Otherwise, I'll fucking hear about it. It was actually funny. Literally today in the Divas Discord, somebody tagged me in and was like, so I made the mistake of starting to read the Republic Commando books. And you were completely right about everything. I was like, thank you. I was.
That's why you promote our Discord. You get validation.
I do. See, this
You
is
want more people to show up so you can just keep hitting that button and get a little serotonin.
this is
I
a
encourage this.
This
I
is
encourage
a
this.
symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, no, it works for
Right?
me.
It's like the midichlorians hanging out in the blood.
Don't even fucking start with that. Don't even fucking start with fucking midichlorians. God damn it. I fucking hate midichlorians so much.
Din and Grogu make their way into Gideon's control room, where Gideon just appears and is furious that Din murdered his Force-sensitive clones. They begin to fight. The Praetorian guards show up and subdue Din. Grogu appears and distracts the guards, leading them away from the fight. In the jetpack battle, the Armorer and Casca take out multiple commandos. The Praetorian guards take down the IG-12 mech suit, but Grogu is able to evade them. Din begins to struggle against Gideon, but Bo body checks Gideon to help him out so Din can go save Grogu. Bo takes out her darksaber and begins her fight with Gideon.
Fuck yeah.
Gideon literally just like appears.
He
Hello,
does, though. He
I'm
really
here,
does.
And I'm having a full shit fit about you killing my clones.
Which is
And
weird. It's like, why did he? Okay, he was sitting there watching Mando come through the thing, and he knew where he was going. So
Right.
he knew he was going to go through the barriers, which means he knew he was going to go through the laboratory. So he was just kind of like, yeah, you know what? Let me just let him come through to me. Like, I'm not going to waste my time.
Maybe
going to
this
him.
direct linear design of this whole
Right.
lab situation is a bad idea. They
But
shouldn't have
then
done
once
that.
he knew he got into the laboratory, he should have been like, I should probably like protect my little babies, you know? Like, I don't understand.
He's a terrible mother.
Nope.
Terrible mother.
What I do love, though, is if you listen closely during this whole sequence from the clones on, you can hear the weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth of every fanboy who swore up and down that Saint John Favreau was going to swoop down and decanonize the sequel trilogy with this show.
I actually put that weeping and wailing and gnashing on so that I can fall asleep to it.
It's so soothing, isn't it? Oh, it just calms my spirit. Fuck them. No that we're gonna decanonize the sequel trilogy. You guys still believe in Santa too, don't you? Fuck's sake. No, it looks like progress was made towards the cloning and getting Force abilities in there, as all paths lead to Palpatine.
Almost like that's a thing you can do, and we're establishing it here so that when somebody, cough, cough, Brindle Hux, pulls it off later on, possibly, maybe, we had a discussion about that last week, it doesn't come the fuck out of nowhere. It's almost like when they got the guy who added a bunch of context and nuance to the prequels to do this, that the intention was to add context and nuance to other films and not completely ignore them.
I just don't understand, like, what wishful thinking logic hoops were they jumping through to think that the final 3 movies in the Skywalker saga were going to be decanonized by one season of one TV show on Disney Plus?
Because
Really?
Because
That's how that works.
That particular type of man on the internet, and let's be fair here, it is
It's men.
always men.
Yep.
That particular type of fan on the internet does not want to engage with this material, or more importantly, with their opinion on this material, in any sort of constructive or cohesive way.
Or reality-based way.
Or reality-based way. They are right. Whatever their opinion of, when they watch a thing, is the correct opinion. There is no subjective art viewing. They have to be right. They cannot accept the possibility that someone else might view something differently than them. So they have to view things in terms of this is objectively bad. This is objectively wrong. This is objectively terrible. So when a thing comes along that contradicts that viewpoint, they curl up into a little ball, like the hermit crab I had when I was a child. And like the hermit crab I had when I was a child, eventually they will just die in that shell, unfulfilled and unmourned.
This is now a horrifying story about your pet hermit
this
crab.
took a left turn into your child psychology. Like, you were like, why you are the way you are. Clearly.
Tell me about your mother. No, I think it's important. It's important to note, though, it's not their opinions. It's the opinion that they were told to have by a YouTuber. So
that part. Yeah.
Yes.
It's one or two dudes' opinions disseminated out to all of these fucking men.
Yeah. I think it's a little of column A, a little of column B. I think this type of person went to the movie with the girl and the black man in it and didn't like that the girl and the black man were in the movie. And so they went home and they went on YouTube, where grifters on the internet gave them the word to express that they didn't like the movies What With the Girl and the Black Man in them in a way that didn't make them sound sexist or racist.
Except that they super sound sexist.
And racist, but they don't realize that.
And for those of you listening, you can always identify when this phenomenon is happening because they all say the same turns of phrase. They will all say the same thing like, Rey is more powerful than she had any right to be. That's a specific turn of phrase that I have seen. I can't even count how many times. It's because they all got it from the same fucking video. Anyway, fucking men on the internet.
Like, you don't have to like the sequel trilogy. I know plenty of people that don't. I have my gripes with the sequel trilogy.
Same here.
But it's when they start coming in and they're like, no, it's objectively bad. And I'm like, I don't
can't say objectively about your opinion. Like, yeah, you keep saying that word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
Right. And then they go into this whole thing about how, oh, this is the only Star Wars that is bad. And I'm like, do you guys remember the very first movie? Like, I'm just throwing that out there. This movie was made in the 70s. It was objectively a bad movie and it was amazing. And so I don't know what you're talking about when you say things are objectively bad. It's like they're always shitty. They're always campy. That's the whole point of that.
I don't know how anybody can say that anything is the worst Star Wars when the holiday special is right there.
Exactly.
Right there.
It's there. And I'm fond of saying that it's a little joke of mine. The worst Star Wars movie is whatever the last one to come out was.
Give it 10 years.
Because
fucking love it.
It's always a cycle. Because the movies aren't for you, as Freddie Prinze Jr. once famously said. They're for fucking kids.
They're for fucking kids.
And
like the kids of that time.
Steph, I'm sorry I have to mention this, but I'm gonna apologize because I'm not a dick like your co-host.
No.
I do get to go to Batu sometimes. And when I do, I'm not apologizing to Bradley, because fuck you. But whenever I do get to go to Batu, and it's not as often as Steph's fucking co-host, who has just his magic pass that gets him through the gate whenever, and I hate him for it a little bit.
That's what happens when you don't have kids. You just go.
Truly. But
all the time.
Whenever I go and you see kids, like you see little girls walking around as Rey, every single time I have been there, I have seen multiple little girls walking around as Rey. I have seen multiple kids walking around with their sequel costumes and their sequel merchandise. They love these movies. Give it 10 years, those kids are going to be like getting their first writing jobs, and they're going to be writing think pieces about how The Force Awakens is really good, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And the cycle will begin again.
Yep.
The cycle of abuse continues with Star Wars.
The cycle of abuse of Star Wars.
Star Wars. It's true, because you have your original people, you have your prequel people, and now you have your sequel people, and then you're going to have your sequel people after that. So
and there was a whole generation. It's my son's generation. Is the Clone Wars kids.
Right.
Like Clone Wars was their Star Wars.
That's another generation.
We just had two of those people on. If you're listening to the entire season and you didn't just tune in to hear Steph, which in fairness you might have done, but go back and listen to the
whole thing. Go.
Right. And then
go back and listen to our Wyatt episode in particular. Wyatt is self-admittedly a Clone Wars kid, and when he approaches stuff, it is with that mentality. He talks a lot in our episode that we recorded with him about growing up with the Clone Wars. So I highly recommend those episodes. But yeah, there was that generation, and I'll cop to it. I fucking hated Clone Wars when it came out. There's a very famous story I tell about how I was slated to review the Clone Wars movie for the city paper. So not like a school paper. It was going to be disseminated to the whole city. And I walked out of the movie and I called my editor and I said, you need to give this movie to someone else. And she's like, Charles, you fought tooth and nail in the meeting for this movie. And I said, yeah, but here's my problem with the movie. I'm a fan of the original material, and all of my complaints about this movie are gonna be as somebody who's just mad it didn't do the thing he wanted. So please give it to someone else. Proudest moment of my life. That review
was
did
very
not go
grown
to
up.
paper.
That was
I
very
had
grown
to
up of
work through. See, this is what you could do before the internet. You just didn't publish all your opinions into the echo chamber and get validation. You had to reconcile them over multiple years and come to the conclusion you were wrong and needed to do some learning and growing. Amazingly, this did used to happen.
And that's on being a grown-up, kids. That right there.
And let's segueing back into...
I do have a note. I do have a quick note
It's
about...
one of those wonderful moments where you tangent, but the tangent is so good that you're like, oh, no,
is that
the
what that
tangent
was?
needs to keep going.
Did you just compliment your own tangent?
I complimented your tangent and ours collectively as a group.
Okay, so let me talk real quick about Gideon, okay?
Yes.
His desire to mass produce Force abilities, not just make one clone that has Force abilities, not just imbue himself with Force abilities, which apparently didn't even occur to him, but to isolate the thing that makes Force abilities happen and then mass produce that is very on brand with him. And his like cheap and quick fast fashion version of Beskar armor that he's put out to all of his dudes and himself, and his fucking cultural appropriation. He's wanting to reproduce the Force, and I guarantee you it's because he wants to throw shit around with his mind and not because he has any idea about it being a connection of all life force beings across the planet, the galaxy, etc., etc. No nuance, just grab what you like and mass produce it. He's what's wrong with capitalism. There, I said it.
Yay! There's a capitalism this episode. Fuck you, Chris. I think that he's the type of dude that is obsessed with the idea of feeling clever. So he can't go with actual clever idea, which is, hey, what if I gave myself the Force? Mm-hmm. He has to be more clever than that because he's Moff Gideon. He's better than all these pleb Imperial warlords running around. He has to make his clone army of Force users. But of course we have to extrapolate all of this because we spent no fucking time with them, and thus this moment is literally the only insight we get into his mentality or why he has done any of this.
And look, Giancarlo Esposito is working so hard. He's trying. He is just pouring his life's blood into 5 minutes of screen time, and it's good.
He's very, I will give him this. He's on par with Ian McDiarmid in the original trilogy.
There you go.
He's barely in it, but when he's in it, oh man, he's gonna own every scene he's in.
To be clear, the performance, not the script.
Correct.
Yeah.
The script for Return of the Jedi stands up to scrutiny. Mm-hmm. There's my shade that I'm throwing.
Go ahead and throw it. You throw it all.
Speaking... Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to talk about the Praetorian Guard and talk shit about them for a minute. That's what I was going to do.
Do they appear before? Let me check timestamps real thing.
No, we talked about it. He said it. Bradley said it.
I did say it.
I was listening. I listen when Bradley talks. I don't know if you do that.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't listen when Bradley talks.
So, just a little insight for you, Steph. When we do Ahsoka, we're going to do my script thing a little differently. I'm going to literally be like, we're going to start with the scene where Grogu is doing this, and then we're going to end with this. That way we can talk about all the stuff in the middle, and I don't have to say anything else because it's going to be way too much talking in this next season. So Ahsoka
is going to be by ourselves, and the reason is our guest episodes on average about 2 hours to 2.5 hours. Our solo episodes average about 45 minutes to an hour.
Nice.
Ahsoka was 2.5 hours, the length of some of our longest guest episodes by ourselves.
Wait, Ahsoka was?
The Ahsoka episode of season 2 of The Mandalorian.
was a good episode.
Anyway.
Remember back when scripts were really good in Mandalorian?
Oh, God.
God, that was a good time.
That.
You just want to go back to that episode real quick, talk about that?
I do. Let's talk about the Praetorian Guard.
Speaking of the stupid shit that happens in the script, the Praetorian Guard, who, by the way, were literally just waiting for the music cue to pop up so they could come out of the smoke. Yeah. And look, full credit, that was a good entrance. This is how you know they're going to work for a Sith someday. Because drama on the entrance, good for them.
Drama.
They overpowered him. They've got him on the ground. He's pinned to the ground. And like, why would you ever have Din Djarin pinned to the ground and then let him go on every level? On the violence level, on the brown chicka brown brown level. Like, I would never let him go. But that's just me personally. But they look up from the legitimately very dangerous Mandalorian warrior that they have pinned to the ground because they hear a baby in a mech suit go coo over there. And they're like, fuck this guy. All three of them have to go deal with the baby? Really?
Right.
What kind of dossier did fucking Gideon give them on this goddamn baby that they felt like they needed to do that? That's the only thing. Like, I have to headcanon that.
You know what it probably was? Because Gideon probably did not give them a dossier because they're on loan. They're on loan from Brindle Hux and Paleon.
Why wouldn't they look at this baby and go, huh, that's a fucking weird baby in a mech suit, and then go back to kicking Din Djarin's ass?
Maybe it's a primal, it looks like a Yoda and therefore it has to die thing.
But does anybody of this generation even know what a Yoda looks like? There was one.
Yeah, they must not know. Yeah,
and it's not like he made a lot of TV appearances.
There were two.
He didn't do Good Morning Coruscant. Okay, like Yoda was not a super well-known dude.
There were two. Yaddle was also there.
Yaddle existed for a minute.
Yaddle was also there.
Where she got mercilessly destroyed.
Which is now we know what happens to her because
Anyway, she does show up. Stefan, I know you haven't read up to phase 2 of the High Republic, but for our listeners who maybe are interested in powering through the pain that is the High Republic,
I'm not.
Yaddle does show up in phase 2, and she is hands down the highlight of Cataclysm. She is a badass. And I, at least, because I have read that book and know, I will always put respect on her name.
Oh, she's fucking great. I forgot about her because I'm a terrible person. But yeah, no, they didn't, right? There was no good goddamn reason in the world for them to peel away from fighting the Mandalorian and go after the baby, other than for us to go, oh no, Grogu. But we know. Grogu's fine.
Know. Even when the doors like close and then
he's like he's got his little robot mech suit hands in front of himself to protect. Right. No, he's fine.
Literally the next time we see him, I'm skipping ahead just a little bit. Literally the next time we see him, he is skipping along the top of the things, fucking laughing.
He's fine.
He is having the best time running away from these Praetorian guards.
They're literally just chasing a baby around. It's fucking stupid. I do love that Mando is rescued by his lesbian girlfriend. That was a great moment. The way she stood, she like body checked him off of there and stood and turned to him and said, "Go save your kid." And in that moment, she was my dream girl. I fell in love with her a whole lot. So love her.
And so did Din. So does everyone. Before she jumps down on there, I do have two quick things I want to point out. The first thing I want to point out is Bradley mentioned a moment where they're all fighting in the air, and Bo-Katan slashes a guy with the darksaber in midair. And the armor fucking cold clocks a guy with her hammer in midair. And then Casca, fucking bless her heart, was like, I'm gonna imagine these guys are Vince McMahon. Slides across the thing, drops, shoots, knee rockets. The thing that all three of these characters have in common is they're all a woman getting a badass moment in this scene. It is not remarked upon. It is rather like the one in season 2. It is just there. But all of these three characters that get a spotlight in this scene are all badass women kicking these stormtroopers' ass.
It's fucking glorious.
It is.
I love it.
And I almost wish they would have cut the garden scene to have more.
Yeah, I would have been fine with that.
That would have been fine with it, yeah.
We could get rid of the pretty flowers and just let these women fucking just... Because, yeah, it's weird that the armor is bringing a hammer to a gunfight, but that's a Beskar hammer.
Yeah.
she's fine.
Actually, logically, it makes more sense because
Uh-huh.
we see that the guns don't really do that much damage on their armor. So she's really the only one who's really getting in there with it because her hammers can theoretically break and or damage their armor.
That's what they're designed for. They're designed for
Right.
forging Beskar. So yeah, she's all over it.
They're
Right.
also moving so fast that it is hard to get a blaster bolt on a Mandalorian when you're moving one way and the Mandalorian's moving the other way. But when it's up close with a hammer, no, you're done.
Yep.
You're done. You're out of
Yep.
there.
It's a good thing.
All my elation at this scene only rose when moments later Moff Gideon attempted to flamethrower Din Djarin and it did nothing. It did not even burn the cloth on
He's
him.
such a fucking poser noob. He doesn't know what he's doing with the goddamn flamethrower.
He hits him right in the face with the flamethrower. And
Yeah.
Din's like, oh, there is a flamethrower in my face. Immediately gets up. And like in season 2, at least it caught Ahsoka's robe on fire and forced her to like shrug her robe off.
See,
This
But
Jedi-
she was a Jedi, so
yeah.
it's her weakness.
The one and
Meg
only
2 versus
time I'll allow
flamethrowers.
you they're useful is when you're up against a Jedi and you're not in the Gendy Tartakovsky series. Because if you're in the Gendy Tartakovsky series, the Jedi will simply part the flames and it will
That's
do
true.
nothing.
That's true.
As I'm so fond of pointing out.
I do love that series.
But yes, Bo appears as like, get your kid. And I'm like, damn right, that's his kid. And then my next note is just kick his ass, Bo.
Just do it.
Just kick his ass.
God.
I'm skipping ahead a little bit too because I want to mesh this all into one thing. I love how fucking pissed she is in this scene.
Yeah.
There's no like demure like fighting with elegance. She's fucking pissed. She is screaming and she is wailing on his ass. It's very Rey in all of her appearances where she's like, no, I'm just going to be mad and beat the shit out of this guy. I love it.
I support it. I support feminine rage fully.
Grogu is avoiding the guards until one of the guards cuts off part of the platform that he lands on, causing him to fall. Din shows up, and the two take on the guards together, Grogu using the Force to help Din fight, and he takes out all 3 guards. Meanwhile, Axe Woves contacts Kryze, telling her that he plans on ramming the flaming Mandalorian capital ship into Gideon's base. During their fight, Gideon gets the upper hand over Kryze and crushes the Darksaber in her hand. Din shows up to support Bo just as the light cruiser comes crashing into the base, and the Mando family take on Gideon together. Gideon is consumed by the inferno from the ship, but Grogu uses the Force to create a force bubble around both Din and Bo, saving them.
I will give this sequence a lot of shit for being fucking ridiculous, but I do like that the way they beat the Praetorian Guards is Grogu and Din fighting together.
Right. That's
I do
really good.
like that. Where Grogu's like, he can't fight them directly, but
Right.
he's just being a little pain in the ass
He's a
and
good
moving their
support
stuff
system, yeah.
around. So Din can get in there and do the
Right.
actual murder.
Right.
I do love that.
I do really love that Grogu is embodying the fine Jedi tradition of not remembering that he even has the Force until the story needs him to have the Force. Because he could have just pinned all 3 of those motherfuckers to the wall until his dad got there.
Very true.
But he did not. In fact, he was trapped under a pipe. Oh no, I'm just a poor little baby, and there is a pipe on me. I certainly don't have fucking magic space telekinesis that could get this off
like
me.
holding the fort, like he's holding the pipe up, like it's not crushing him. He's like doing a weak little.
It's so heavy.
Yeah,
Never
no,
mind,
but
he choked out 2 stormtroopers last season.
right.
Like
But
in
this
the
is
air.
even before he was trained, he fucking destroyed multiple stormtroopers at a time. He fucking levitated a Rhyhorn anyway. He totally could have handled it. However, when the story needs the Jedi to not be able to use their Force powers, they don't use them. And this was that case.
I just want to point out you called it a Rhyhorn.
Is it not a?
It's a
That's a
Rhyhorn.
Pokemon.
It looks like a Pokemon, I guess.
It's a Mudhorn. It's a Mudhorn,
Yes.
right? It's
See,
a Rhyhorn.
I didn't even know that was a Pokemon until you said it. Because
It's a Pokemon. Yeah, it's a fucking Pokemon.
I don't remember
Oh,
Pokemon, but Bradley probably would have appreciated that.
My
reference.
ultra nerd is showing. I love that Axe Woves wasn't like, "Hey, Bo, do you want me to crash this ship?"
Right.
He's like, "I'm fucking
"It's
crashing
happening.
it.
It's happening.
It's happening right now."
I can't do anything about it."
Mandalorians.
Fucking Mandalorians. And I was cheering him on, but that didn't come anywhere near the volume of my cheer when the goddamn Darksaber was finally fucking destroyed. Can we please kill the MacGuffin already?
Fucking snaps the Darksaber like
Good.
a twig.
Fucking kill it. The Darksaber has been like the fucking ring of power since the goddamn Clone Wars. And this was like throwing the ring of power into the fires of Mount Doom for me. I was so glad to see it go. Bye.
Because they don't need it anymore.
No,
and
it doesn't mean what it meant before.
That's the
They
thing.
don't need it.
The Darksaber didn't unite Mandalore. Bo-Katan united
did.
Mandalore.
Exactly.
The Darksaber was not necessary as a piece of iconography.
It was the Dumbo feather of her fucking leadership. She didn't need it. She could have flown the whole time.
And that's Bo-Katan's character arc over the course of this season, is when we meet her on Kalevala, R.I.P. to Castle Kryze. When we meet her, she's given up hope, because if she doesn't have the Darksaber, what is she? Her fleet has disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
The people aren't listening to her. Like, Din's group isn't going to come anywhere. Fuck her, I guess, right? And then at the end of it, no, she never really needed it. She had the capability to unite the Mandalorians all along. She did.
And she found that in herself. And she is this season's titular Mandalorian.
That is
God damn it.
Spicy hot take that I 100% agree with.
You know, I really wish what they would have done, though, with this Darksaber is, like, once he crushed it and it was on the ground, and then, like, maybe later on in the scene, I would have liked them to, like, go over to it and see it, and it would have, like, crumbled into dust because of the inferno or whatever, but then maybe, like, the crystal was still there, and then maybe, like, Grogu just takes it, like, kind of like as a, like, oh, I'm just gonna hold on to
that
this
crystal's
for later
coming
kind
back.
of thing.
That motherfucker's
It'll
coming
come back.
Yeah,
that
because
motherfucker's
Filoni
coming
can't
back.
let that go. Are you kidding me?
Right. No, of course not. And I'm assuming Maz Kanata just found it one day randomly, because
Yeah,
that's how
absolutely.
everything
Yeah,
happened.
that's what she does.
It's a good story for another time.
For another time, right?
I also want to point out, so Gideon, like, grabs it, crushes it in her hand like an asshole.
Yes.
Because you know he has pistons designed just for that. And then fucking yanks her helmet off.
And for the first time ever, her hair is slightly mussed.
It was like, you fucking dick. Fuck, I hate you so much.
He's such
He
a
wanted
bastard.
to look into her eyes when he defeated her.
So it was mentioned at the top of the episode that there was some concern that Axe Woes was not going to make it out of this episode.
I mean, minor grief.
Had some little... He
fleeting.
wasn't collecting death flags, but he, like, was in the same room with one. But then Axe Woes remembered he had a jetpack.
Yeah,
Right. And
in
he
a
was like,
rocket.
oh, I could just jump out of the window and survive.
I'm fine, everybody. I'm fine. I live to handsome another day.
George Lucas named me, apparently, so I can't die.
That's why his name is dumb.
Yeah, because George Lucas named him.
Woves?
Axe
Really?
Woves.
Woves.
Apparently George Lucas, from what I have heard, George Lucas apparently was on set the day of his first appearance and named the character Axe Woves.
And you can't in any way countermand what has been bestowed by a visitation from God King Lucas.
No. I know he's visited the set of The
that fucking
Mandalorian
guy.
at least once before, because there's photos of him holding Grogu
Right.
and with
you should.
Ahsoka,
Mhm.
with Rosario as Ahsoka. That man, I'm waiting for his museum to open here so I can go and be sulking the whole time about
Is
how
that a
much
thing
I
that's really going to
dislike him.
happen?
That's
Yeah.
a thing that's really going to happen. One of my coworkers is really into Star Wars. He apparently drives by the museum every so often.
Huh.
That they're constructing. That's still happening, apparently.
Cool. All right.
I'm sure I will go to it at some point.
Yeah. If you could walk through with a really sullen look on your face.
I
the
will.
whole
I
time,
will just sulk the whole time.
That'd be great.
I
Yeah.
will glare and glower. I will just be slightly unpleasant about the entire thing. And then I will go and drink a large quantity of alcohol.
And keep asking the volunteers at this museum, where is the no underwear in space exhibit? Need to know where that is.
I need to know just specifically where in narrative design it was appropriate to put the preteen in a tube top.
Yep.
Why did you, where in narrative design does it say that's the appropriate way to do things? George.
Oh, George.
Oh, George.
So Grogu does a big force bubble save, and of course he was going to.
Yes, just like at the end of season 1. Again, we are calling back to the end of season 1.
Ring theory. There you go.
That's exactly what you do not bring up ring theory in my presence.
And again, this is the low stakes in the episode. Because if you've got Grogu there, you're fine, especially if you're his dad and his auntie,
right.
and you're fine. And so I like, of course he saved them. But you got to wonder, like, where did Grogu learn to make a big crazy force bubble? Luke didn't fucking teach him that. He did it intuitively back in season 1. So he's just a self-taught little feral guy.
Yeah.
Out there, like, I don't know what the fuck. Look, I love you, Luke Skywalker. I don't know what the fuck you thought you were going to teach him.
Right.
He taught him the value of conflict resolution and breaking up a fight on a barge. And that, as far as we can tell, is the only thing that Luke really taught him. Also, he taught him how to jump a lot.
He did teach him jumping. That's good.
He taught him jumping.
Also taught him how to say fuck you to ultimatums. So
there you go. There you go.
I'm not sure if that was a lesson that he intended to teach him. But it's what got taught.
It was cute and all, but I mean, Kanan Jarrus was quaking in his boots from beyond the grave watching this because he was just like, damn.
Oh, so you haven't listened to it, Bradley, but I just listened to the latest Darkside Divas episode as of recording this podcast, which, if you're listening to this the day it comes out, it will have been the previous episode, so not the one that is dropping the same day this comes out, because our podcasts are weirdly in sync. But the previous one, Empire Day, they have a whole conversation about Kanan Jarrus and attachment.
Which legitimately did happen. Doesn't have a lot to do with Kanan protecting himself from fire, or not, for that matter. But yeah.
It's just funny you bring up Kanan Jarrus, and I saw an opportunity to plug Darkside Divas.
For the 4th time today.
Listen,
Bradley's like, could you plug our show?
So the difference between Bradley and I is that Bradley doesn't have a lot of time to listen to podcasts. I do, because I have special permission at work to listen to podcasts while I work because of the nature of my job. That's how I get to listen to so many. And because I listen to so many, I'm constantly plugging them on this show, and he gets so sick of it.
Well, because I can't listen to them. So, it's almost like I feel left out.
It's a FOMO.
You are left out. No one likes
I'm left
you.
out.
Anyway,
all the people who are listening,
everybody likes Bradley. It's bizarre. People fucking like Bradley. It's really bizarre to me.
It's the weirdest thing.
It's the weirdest thing.
I really, getting back to the force bubble in the fire, I really like that moment, I think. And it was one of those moments where you realize, like, if you go back over the show, anytime they've got Mando and Bo-Katan in the same shot, Mando, of course, has his helmet on. If Bo-Katan does not have her helmet on, whatever look is on her face is on Mando's face. It's just under the helmet. Right. Like, she's like his facial expression interpreter. And so she's like, what the fuck? And so's Mando.
I love it.
Like, that's what how I choose to interpret all of that.
I also accept that as an interpretation. And yes, Gideon did get consumed by the fire. He did the no and threw his arms out to get disintegrated, which is how you know he's coming back.
He's coming back. We're not done with him. He's going to come back with like cool scar makeup or something. I don't fucking know.
So this
or
is
the
a
best
great
guy
time.
is going to be like welded on.
He's going to have like the helmet just like, and he's
going to have it like attached to his, like he can't take the helmet off.
Can't take it off.
Like
he will talk at all times in the helmet distorted voice, which thank you. Yes, please.
Oh my God. Yeah, no.
Forever and ever.
Do that. John, if you're listening to this podcast, which I really
He's not listening.
Because I just spent 8 episodes bashing your writing.
Shitting down his neck, yeah.
Do that thing I just said. Or when the WGA forces your ass to have a writer's room, as it should, I live in LA. You can hire me.
Honey.
I will write the thing.
Shine on, you crazy diamond. Dream big, baby. Dream big.
This is a great moment.
I will keep insisting that.
This is a great moment to bring up my crazy conspiracy theory of this is not actually Moff Gideon.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Do go on. You think that was his clone?
I think this was the clone.
Do you think that's why he disappeared out of the command center and then all of a sudden reappeared? Because it was his clone?
I don't think this was really Moff Gideon.
Oh, I love it. I love it. 100% accepted. I'm on board with this theory.
It just doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem to make sense. And I thought it was weird because I was like, this has been the main villain since the beginning of the show, and he's barely in the show. And it just kind of seems odd that they're just like, we're just gonna let him die in a blazing fire. That's not actually the cause of Mando or Grogu killing him. It just happened chance that this inferno blazes and takes him out. I don't think so. I think this was a decoy.
I have an unfortunate counterpoint to this.
I also have a counterpoint to this. My own theory.
And my counterpoint is, have you watched anything Jon Favreau has written? He does not think that far ahead.
But Filoni's involved, and Filoni does.
Ugh.
So anyway, this is my one theory, right? Is that, that's not really Gideon.
Just the one?
That's my one theory. My second theory is that it actually is Gideon, but one of his clones survived, and then that clone is going to get revenge for his father.
Is his name Gideon?
Probably. It's probably Gideon.
Thank you for listening to Gold Squadron Gays. Follow us on Twitter.
I love it. No, I love the idea that Gideon wasn't even there. He was just like, nope, that little green dot is too close. I'm out of here.
Yeah, that's like, so it would just make the most sense. It's either that or the suit protected him and he's fine.
Either way, we have not seen the last of Moff Gideon.
Oh, of course not. Like, why even establish the fact that he has clones and not be like, let's make evil clone number 76 come back for season 4.
Getting back to when we got a good look at his clones earlier, why were they all old? Why were all of his clones the same age as current Moff Gideon? Yeah. Like,
which makes no sense.
It's not that hard. It's like, just younger, but all right.
Yeah, because even Boba Fett clones were like a slightly younger, like more advanced version of
Boba Fett clones.
Oh, did I say Boba Fett? I meant Jango Fett.
There we go. Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, wow.
Just
Can you slather a little more condescension on that, please? That would be right.
Look, I'm just keeping Mr. Attack of the Clones is my favorite Star Wars movie over there, honest.
Anyway, so
wow,
Jango
really?
Clones, in a nostalgic, like, this is like my childhood kind of way.
You do you, baby. Somebody's got to love it.
That's right.
Well, we found the one person that and now that I've said that, right, about a dozen people are going to tag me somewhere, either on Discord or on Twitter, because I can think of at least one other person for whom that's their favorite movie. Somebody's going to tag me and be like, it's my favorite movie too. And I'm like, I'm just inviting that upon myself.
To clarify, it was my favorite as a kid, and I liked it that much. However, currently, I think I would probably say Solo is probably my current favorite, only because it's like the most fun.
It is super fun.
It's just the most fun movie.
I'm just giving Bradley shit because my favorite Star Wars movie is Last Jedi, and I've been hearing it for 5 fucking years. So I just get to dish it out a little bit to Bradley. It's therapeutic. It's cathartic for me. Please, Bradley, continue with your no doubt terrible fucking theory.
Okay, so anyway, long story long, Gideon's not dead. No. That was either A, clone of him, or B, the suit protected him and he's just not dead and he's coming back next season like normal.
Exactly. Yep.
I just hope and pray and whatever Mandalorians believe in, that they focus on him next season or make him a focus, like or give him a whole fucking episode by himself and don't ever show Mando once. Like, I need to see him just do things. Just do things.
Hey, just be out there eviling it up.
Yeah.
Hey, Dave. Yeah. Hey, Dave. You know Jennifer Corbett? Who works in your building? Go ask her how to do this. Like, go walk into Jennifer Corbett's office and be like, hey, how do I write a really good, random, antagonist-centric episode to provide pathos and depth to my antagonistic characters so that even though they are separated from the main narrative of the story, we still feel as though they are important to the overall arc of the show? She will tell you how to do this. Because she did it in Bad Batch Season 2. Just do that.
He knows how to do that, though. I mean, how much time did we spend following Maul and his gorgeous brother around back in Clone Wars?
It's John that needs to go talk to Jennifer Corbett.
I blame John Favreau for everything.
I'm not letting Dave Filoni or Noah Clord get away for me, but yes, I do blame Jon Favreau for many, many things on this show.
So many things.
Bradley, you want to take us into the 18 endings? The Return of the King?
I was going to say, I literally have 2 separate paragraphs for 2 separate endings, basically. So it's like, all right, well, there you go. Following the defeat of Gideon, the armorer holds a ceremony at the Living Waters. Ragnar takes on the Creed, and Din shows up with Grogu, asking the armorer to induct Grogu, but she refuses as he is unable to speak the Creed. Din asks her if parent permission is okay and agrees to adopt Grogu as his son officially. She accepts this and names him Din Grogu. Later, the armorer hands Kryze a flame to light the Great Forge, and Mandalorians from both factions chant as the forge is rekindled.
Mm-hmm.
So that was 18,000 endings part 1.
Part 1, right.
So, yeah, Din is his last name.
Yeah, apparently.
Okay. Oh, I knew you guys were going to bring this up because so every single little paragraph thing that I've ever said on this show where I do like a summary of the scene, I always say Din. I always say Din. I always say Din.
I've referred to him as Din throughout this episode. His name is Jaren.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's like the thing that sent the most ripples throughout the Star Wars fandom was learning that Din was his last name, because that means every single ship name is wrong.
I mean, unless we're going to call him by his last name, I
mean, maybe,
right, which is still something people do. I mean,
yeah, sure.
But then now that leads me like into a weird theory of like, so if you're named after your like, I guess you're a leader or whatever, whoever your apprentice person is, then like that means there's a Din out there, so like someone with the name Din who apprenticed.
It's not. There's 2 points I need to bring up this. One, Din Grogu doesn't become Din Grogu until Din Djarin adopts him as his son. It's not the apprentice thing. It's he literally adopted him as his flesh and blood son thing. They gave him the name. 2, we have to assume, because Din is the only fucking hell, I just said it again. There we go. I'm gonna keep saying it. You know what? Fuck
It's like calling him Johnson, okay? Like it's
Right.
just go
You know
with
what?
it.
Smith over there, we have to assume that this is a thing that was in his culture pre him joining the Mandalorians. Because he's the only one that does this. It's Bo-Katan Kryze. It's Casca Reeves. It's Axwo, Satine Kryze, Pre Vizsla, Paz Vizsla. And all of that, every single one has been first name, last name. We have to assume this was carried over from his original culture. And they kept it, which is a cool thing, kind of, actually, that they kept that. That's my explanation. I also have to say, hell yeah, just portraying adoption in Star Wars as a thing that's cool. I love seeing that.
Hold on. You mean that you can become a member of a whole other family that you were not a member of before, and now you can use their name because they're your fucking family?
Well, you see, what happened was he gave permission. Never mind that maybe in certain other scenes that permission can be nonverbal, that it can be communicated through a look or a gesture from, say, 2 people who are standing there. No, you see, obviously it's different because he said the
Her
words
name is
with-
Rey Skywalker, for fuck's sake. Her name is Rey Skywalker. God damn it. Anyway, I love the Din Grogu. I love how proud Grogu looks, because he's like, oh, now he's really my dad, and that's amazing. And I would have been able to focus on all of that if I wasn't wondering, why the fuck is Din's helmet wet? He has drops of water on his helmet the whole time he's talking to the armorer. Now, just a minute before in that scene, she like splished a bunch of water all over fucking Ragnar, the orphan's head, and sent him on his way. Now he's taking the
Holy
creed.
shit, you're right.
Din's helmet is wet.
Din's
Why is
helmet is fucking
why is his
wet.
helmet wet?
There's just
Oh
a lot of
my
moisture
God.
in the room, I guess.
No, there's a scene that got cut out there, and then they didn't have somebody from continuity run up and dab his fucking mask off.
That's
Yeah,
exactly
because the
right.
steps
God
are kind
damn
of
it.
wet. Let me hop over.
Like
There's
she probably
another
poured it on his
shot.
face too, or something for some random reason, and then
Yeah,
was
there's
like,
some whole ass other thing.
There's something. Yeah, I'm trying to get a shot of.
Like
Bo-Katan
maybe that was
here.
part of the adoption, was like splishing
Right.
him.
Yeah,
It was going to be a
something.
whole ceremony.
splash him with living waters,
And they were like,
splash
no,
Grogu
no,
with
we
it.
can't
Yeah.
have that scene here. We need to keep the scene in the garden, though.
No,
Right.
I just stopped it on an image of Bo-Katan. She is bone dry.
Yeah, he's the only wet one. What the fuck? What happened? Anyway, I do like also that Grogu then, to end this scene, leans over and like, into the water, I think he's legit force talking to the mythosaur.
Oh, 100%.
And was like, hey, buddy, I'm in the family now. And the mythosaur's like, fuck, and swims off.
The mythosaur's like, yeah, see you at the end of the thing when someone rides me.
Right.
Probably
which didn't happen. Right. Which I didn't understand is like this again, they tease it another time and it doesn't come to fruition of like why it's there in the water other than just being an Easter egg.
I don't know what you mean. They would never tease a thing or bring up a thing and make it be important and then never follow it through. Not in season 3 of The Mandalorian.
Oh, God, no. They definitely wrote at least 2 drafts of this season. They definitely wrote at least 2. I do have 2 notes here that I want to bring up for this scene specifically before we move into the Forge. One is that, did either of you notice the difference in the creed that Ragnar is taking between the first episode of this season and now?
No.
There is absolutely no mention of him not removing his helmet.
You're right.
There is
okay.
And I noted in season 1, well, not in season 1, but in episode 1, they specifically mention that I will not remove my helmet. Now they don't. That is not part of it. And we hear the full thing.
Right.
Like, that's the full thing beginning to end.
Do you think they, like, re-baptized anyone who was like, can I take off my fucking helmet to eat,
they're like,
please?
it's a little easier to eat I don't wear this.
I think they have omitted it so that they can baptize more people into the creed. Like, they have changed. This is the full character arc. The fucking religion goes.
This is the King James Bible of Mandalorian creeds. This is the King James Bible of
Mandalorian creeds. They have now changed it to be more accessible to all Mandalorians. And also, you're not going to get fucking kicked out of being a Mandalorian if you take your helmet off. It's a tiny little thing, but it says so much.
If you would rather not have to sort of awkwardly walk away from the campfire to go find a quiet place to eat by yourself, maybe re-up on this creed where you're allowed to take your helmet off.
I also like the armorer's little, this is the way. Like, she was expecting Den to do something like this.
100%. No, everything about her mannerisms in that scene is like, she's waiting for him to say, okay, so I'll adopt the kid. Like, yeah.
I think the implication, too, when she says, like, oh, you need to go out into the galaxy and teach him as your teacher took you. Who have we seen teaching Den throughout the galaxy for the entirety of this season?
The armorer.
She's talking about herself.
Yes.
She's clearly talking about herself.
So that kind of makes more sense now. I was like, are we gonna like learn about this mysterious person that trained him / taught him? Okay, so it's her.
I think we're gonna find out at some point that she's the closest thing to a mom that he's had, which is.
So are we gonna ever learn her actual name?
No, she doesn't have a name. Her name's
Rookcast.
But I do think if you were raised by the armorer, it explains a lot about why Din is socially the way he is.
Well, what if she adopted Din? So then that makes her actually a
Din armorer. Well. Yeah.
Din armorer.
Yeah, that's her name. Anyway, what about the Forge, babe?
They light the Forge. My only real note from that, because whatever, it's a feel-good scene. Yay, we're happy they've reclaimed Mandalore. I feel emotional about this for the first time ever I have felt about Mandalorians who are not Satine Kryze. I do like that Ragnar is standing next to Axe Woves in this scene, with the sort of implication that Axe has taken Paz's son on as an apprentice.
I thought that as well. Yeah,
like the implication. Sort of headcanon-y thing, but you know what? It's one that I really, really like.
Yeah.
That they didn't get along, but then he took his son on as an apprentice to look out for them.
I like that.
I like that.
So then, do we have anything else for this? What's happening? I mean, what's going on? Don't we have like 9 more endings?
We have a whole nother part 2.
We have more endings. Is this the last paragraph, Bradley?
This is the last bit.
This is the last paragraph.
This is the next
We're going to take it on to the end.
Okay.
Huzzah.
Finally, Din and Grogu head to Adelphi base to meet up with Carson Teva, where Din offers a business proposition to work for the New Republic as an independent contractor hunting down Imperial remnant. He takes an assassin's droid head as an advance payment, and then back on Navarro, Grief Karga gifts Mando with a cabin to thank him for saving the town from pirate, and Din gifts the town with a repaired IG-11 to serve as a new Marshal of Navarro. At his new cabin, Din watches over Grogu playing with a frog.
Torturing a frog. Yes. So, okay, this is where it got real fanfiction-y for me. I'm like, really?
You mean the scene where Dave Filoni literally shows up in the scene?
It's just Dave Filoni in the bar. Now, I know the last time we were in this bar, Dave Filoni was also in the scene, but this time it was more egregious because it's like he's not even in a costume. It's really like, I'm surprised we don't get a shot of his wolf t-shirt in this scene. It's just Dave Filoni with his hat, sitting at the bar, talking to people, Dave Filoniing it up.
Right. Literally he was just there on set that day.
Just a guy.
Like, just sit there at the scene. Yeah.
He's not,
eat your lunch while you
They did nothing to Star Wars him up. That's just Dave Filoni.
That's just Dave, and he is wearing his hat.
God damn it. Anyway, I mean, good for him or whatever. I like that Grogu went straight for the bar snacks.
I did note that. I did note that. Look, a lot of characters have gone through arcs this season. Grogu is the same. Yep. He is just the same character, and we are fine with that.
He's a hungry, hungry hippo. He's a growing boy.
He also kind of says words in this scene.
Uh-huh. Like,
he verbally communicates something, and Din understands what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
I like them. I was like, okay. Because he was trying to talk earlier in the season. I guess he's kind of figured out how to verbalize words that Din can understand.
There was definitely, speaking as a mother person, there was definitely points in both of my kids' development when they were little and they were sort of transitioning from baby babble to actual words where nobody understood what they were saying but me. Like, I understood every word, but if you weren't living there with them all the time and having to interpret what the fuck they were saying all the time, then you had no idea. So yeah, no, that is a perfectly logical, like, toddler level of development of their relationship.
See, this is why I enjoy bringing on people to the show who are not specifically a pair of cisgendered white men who get these perspectives that we just don't have.
I have reproduced, and so I have those skills upon which to draw. I do like that they really, and by like, I mean, they really very explicitly explain what is going to happen with the Din family now.
Guys, we found the plot of season 4.
Exactly. It's going to be adventure of the week going on, or they're going to become like the free floating adventuring NPCs in the background of other people's stories in these Disney Plus shows.
I think they're probably going more for that because now I think that, with Ahsoka coming out and everything, I feel like they're kind of like, okay, we've told the Mandalorian story. So like, let's just like kind of like let that be, and let's have him and Grogu show up to, help out once in a while or to whatever. Like, oh, we randomly need a bounty hunter this episode. So who the fuck else would show up but fucking Din?
We've encountered someone who it turns out has a bounty on their head, and oh no, you happen to be being hunted by the Mandalorian. And his magic baby. Right.
Well, what I find very funny is, and we don't necessarily have this substantiated, we're just sort of working off rumor and hearsay. I have heard through the grapevine, cannot explicitly confirm any of this to be accurate, but I have heard that hunting down Imperial Remnant warlords was going to be the plot of Rangers of the New Republic.
Hey.
And so there it is. I wonder why season 4 is already written.
A bunch of ideas.
They just crossed out some names.
I bet you that's exactly what they did. And it's pretty much, I mean, we saw that with episode 3 or 4 or whatever it was this season.
3.
Like, yeah. And
3 and 5.
3 and 5. It's like, we probably are just doing a Book of Boba Fett thing here where we plucked the first episode of Rangers of the New Republic, throw it in the Mando season, and then be like, hey guys, let's just rework Mando season 4 to be completely Rangers of the New Republic and call it a day.
Which is fine.
Which is fine. I get it. Fine. But yeah, I get it. But still.
They gave Mando the story and they gave IG-11 Cara Dune's job.
And
as they should.
That's the thing, okay? How fucking fan-fiction-y did that feel? Or it's just like, oh, and I brought you a gift. I am IG-11. I am now the marshal of your town. You all fucking love me. I look like an assassin droid. You remember how I used to be a statue? Anyway, I'm your marshal now. Like, really? And everybody's just like, yay, a marshal. You're fucking kidding me?
I just will never stop laughing about the fact that they replaced Cara Dune with a robot.
Look, I love
That's
it. I love
funny to me.
IG-11. I love that
That's
he's back.
funny to me.
I love that we have replaced the fucking transphobe with a robot
With
who was
Taika
arguably
Waititi. They
so much
replaced him
better.
with Taika Waititi.
I'm so glad he's back. But also it was very womp womp of a moment for me. Like it didn't land with me at all. It made me snort and roll my eyes. So
It felt very, we're at the end of the season. Let's tie off this character arc really fast.
hey, you remember that thing that we've been talking about this whole time about getting this IG droid put back together? I guess we should do that. They decided to actually like follow through on something they hinted at earlier in the season. It's fucking weird.
It's very bizarre.
I did enjoy seeing Grief Karga's sexy ass again though, so that was nice.
Oh, I love him so much in this season.
So much.
Well, I mean, he's gonna be what, president of the planet by the next
Of
season.
everything?
So
Yeah.
he keeps elevating every season into
His
like a
cape
higher
gets longer
position.
and longer. Yeah.
Right. So I think next season he'll be president of the planet or like of the Federation, honestly. He'll probably be a whole like
The Federation,
sure.
sure.
Yeah, he'll be a whole fucking senator by the next movie.
Oh my
He'll
god.
be the representative of Navarro in the New Republic.
We know that we're going to be seeing New Republic, and we know that Mon Mothma is currently the Chancellor of the New Republic. Now, thus far as we know, she is the only person to ever hold that office. They retire the office after she does. But I'm just saying, at the rate Grief Karg is going,
I'm just give it a try.
I wouldn't be surprised if he winds up being interim Chancellor of the New Republic.
He's such a goddamn delight. I love him.
Oh my
Love
god.
him.
I desperately want to see him have to go talk to the bigwigs in the New Republic just so we can get him and Mon Mothma in a scene together.
And then she can be like, oh, this is what an attractive man is like. Hold on 1 second. I need to go divorce my fucking hairnet of a husband. I'll be right back.
Well, her husband's not around in anything post-Andor, so like she
Hopefully.
might be free and clear to go.
Gosh, I hope whatever happened to him wasn't horrible and painful.
I hope he didn't get dragged away by the ISB.
Fucking hate that guy.
I fucking cannot stand him. Cannot stand him.
Awful.
Oh, Charles,
Billy
you
Joe.
should. He was like a victim too of the fascist system, and I'll grant you that he's also in a system that's taking advantage of him. But I personally hate him.
I think he
So I will
likes
be
the
good.
system, though.
He loves the
So-
system, and it's gonna chew him up and spit him out. And frankly, I can acknowledge that's gonna suck for him, while at the same time going, you kind of deserve it.
Yeah, fuck him. So that chair that Mando is sitting in on the porch of his little homestead is available
Yes,
at
I have it.
Costco.
What?
Yeah, you can get him at Costco. it's there.
Okay, I
Yeah.
love that.
It's a really
That
cute
guy
chair.
on TikTok. There's like a guy on TikTok who always pulls props from the Mando show, and he's like, "You could buy it on IKEA's website if you just paint it black. Like it's the same thing." Like,
Right.
and so he has all these props. So you should tell him about that one. That's really funny.
I think it was Costco. Don't quote me on that, but I'm going to go with Costco. But no, he is definitely just kind of kicked back and relaxed. And I'm like, buddy, nobody's around. It's just you and the kid and the frog.
Yeah, take the helmet.
Take
off.
the fucking helmet off. Air it out. You know it smells terrible in there.
Also, what happened to the rule of like he has to take it off once a season to be paid as a face actor? Like
He's not getting paid as a face actor, so
He's voiced now,
it's because he's off doing The Last of Us.
Yep.
right.
This is how they let him do The Last of Us, which, by the way, fucking phenomenal show.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Unbelievably good. So glad they did this. How they got away with it was he confirmed he is voice only in the show. He is not ever
Okay,
in
so
the
he's got paid
always-
less for this season.
It is always Lateef Crowder or Brendan Wayne in the suit. He is only providing the voice this time around, so he can go and be in The Last of Us.
And I love that the character of the Mandalorian is this sort of gestalt of these three men. It's fucking great. It's all
Absolutely
all
fantastic.
the best parts of all of them.
I'm
Just
glad too that Brendan Wayne
climbing.
and Lateef Crowder are getting the credit they deserve, because you talked earlier, Steph, about the flawlessness of how this is exactly like season 1 Din. It is the movement performance
Yep.
of these two men in the suit that is pulling that off. So
They're
it's
so fucking good. They're
fucking
so
incredible
good.
that they're getting credited for the work they do. Because movement acting is hard. I can't do it.
It's a skill set.
I can
They're really good
act
at it.
okay, but I can't do any of this shit. This is a whole specialized skill set.
So yeah, like happy ending for Mando and the Din family. Yeah, like they're gonna go on adventures and we'll see them again later. And like
Is it an ending? Because
it's a happy ending for
I've-
everybody but the frog.
I've been teasing this transition. I've been telling Bradley I will explain the transition. It is weird. It is a
little
weird
circle
transition that it goes into a circle. We have seen that circle 3 times in Star Wars before.
Okay.
Phantom Menace, A New Hope, and The Force Awakens.
What circle are you talking about?
The circle wipe transition that they do, where it...
Oh, you're literally talking about a transition. Okay,
I'm literally talking about the transition. Like, it is the first chapter of each trilogy. So that is a way of symbolizing that this first chapter has now closed. This story is told. There will be more, but this is the close of this first chapter in Din Djarin's and overall the Mandalorian story.
I mean, it
I like
makes sense because if you think of the first 3 seasons of Mando and Book of Boba Fett as like one complete story, then it's like, okay, that's the first chapter of the novel of the Mandoverse. And so like, that's it. Cut. Now we're moving on to Ahsoka and Skeleton Crew. Like that's like the next bit.
Yeah, it's the first book, and we know Skeleton Crew is going to follow on from Mandalorian because Vane is back in it. And we know Ahsoka is going to follow on from Mandalorian because she's looking for Grand Admiral Thrawn. Also, the Magistrate is in the trailer, and I was so happy when I saw her. Oh, I was like, oh my God.
Give me all the Diana Lee Inosanto. Oh,
Give me that. But yes, this chapter of the story is over. I do have one more note before Bradley goes into the directed by and written by credits.
Okay.
And that is, once again, I will continue to echo my complaint that I have had for the entire show and will continue to have, that the concept art is so much fucking sicker than what's on the screen.
it's pretty fucking dope. It's pretty
space
fucking
battle
dope.
has just TIE interceptors everywhere. There's a Gazanti freighter fucking exploding in the background. Like, it's just this beautiful, colorful explosion. Like, the clone room is like this ominous, long, spooky green hallway. And then Mando, like, has this dramatic shoot the thing. And I'm like, this is so much cooler than, like, what's actually in the episode.
Alas, but that is often the case.
That is often the case.
Yeah.
Though the one that will eternally, like, I will be mad about this until my dying day, I will pass away furious about this, is the concept art bit of Cara Dune and Fennec Shand fighting back to back in the season 2, episode 7. I forget the name. The Believer. There's a concept art of them fighting like in a hallway, and I was like, did you have an entire scene with these 2 women fighting together that you cut out?
And they sprinkled water on their face. That's what it is. That's how you know they did cut something out. It's right there.
All right, Bradley, you want to take us into the directed by and written by?
Yes, this was directed by Rick Famuyiwa and written by Jon Favreau.
It sure was.
So,
Cannot say enough
shocker.
nice things about Rick Famuyiwa's direction, and Jon Favreau wrote this episode.
Yep, he was also there.
He was also there.
Great. So now we can go into the best part, which is Steph. Any final thoughts about this episode as a whole, or the season as a whole, since you won't be with us during our retrospective?
There were parts of the season that were just the goddamn most delightful. I'm specifically talking about the episode with Lizzo and Jack Black. There were parts of the season and this episode that were just like the Star Warsiest and just so fucking cool. But really the standout for me for this season, because this season was kind of all over the map for me as far as like the writing and consistency and story through line and everything. The standout for me was the consistency of Din Djarin's character. Like, you can see a shining Beskar thread of this character all the way back to the very first episode of The Mandalorian. When we first saw him and he shows up in that one cantina and tells the guy he can bring him in warm or he can bring him in cold. That's the same fucking guy. Now, he's gone through some stuff and he's had some character arcs, but it's the same fucking guy. And I just love seeing him in this. It's fucking great. That's it. That's what I got.
My final thought on the episode is I liked it better on the second viewing. I liked it fine when I first watched it, but watching it again, especially after the sort of us going through and covering it and going through the previous 7 episodes. And when I knew what was going to happen, I was able to kind of be like, okay, yeah, I kind of see how this is a culmination of a lot of character arcs. And this is fun. Like, I don't feel any narrative tension. This is fun. Like, okay, I enjoy watching lightsabers and the electro staff weapon do the clash, and then the ship do the boom boom, and it does the serotonin in my brain. And that is my final thought on this episode.
There you go.
Nice. For me, I will just say that, I think what this episode does is really well is, hey, here's a lot of really cool fucking things. And then that's it. Like, let's just introduce these few little fun fucking things. And yeah, you just watched a finale of a show that's been on for 2 years now. And that's it. Now
Honey,
we'll do
this
another
show's
one
been
next
airing
year.
since 2019.
Oh, you know what I mean.
It's
2
been on
seasons.
but yes, 2 seasons.
You know what I mean. So
Good try, though. Good try.
2 seasons, and it's like you're like, well, we're in the 3rd season of a show, and I always tell people that when you're watching these TV shows that go on for probably 5 or 6 seasons, it's the 3rd season is always the wacky season, or like let's just fucking throw shit at the wall, like just to see what happens, because we already know we're getting a 4th season. So we can this is the experimental season. We can do whatever the fuck we want. And because we already know that we're not canceled, we already know there's another one coming. So let's just fucking do weird shit. And I feel like this episode definitely decided, like, you know what? Let's just have some really cool shit. Doesn't have to make sense. Doesn't have to mean anything. Like, hey, let's introduce the idea that Gideon has fucking clones just randomly chilling in his basement. Like,
why not?
And then kill them immediately. Let's just
you get one eye blink scare and that's it.
Right.
They're
that's
dead.
It. You never see them again. We're never going to talk about them again because they're all dead. So there you go. That's my final thought on the episode.
Well, Steph, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Lovely discussion of the finale. Steph has just become our Mandalorian finale guest, apparently.
Okay.
Sure. Steph,
sign me up.
Would you like to inform all of the people where they can find you, if so they choose?
Hey, I don't know if you guys have heard, I have a podcast.
I think I may have mentioned it.
It's
once
called
or
Dark
twice.
Side Divas. No, it's there's 2. There's Dark Side Divas and Marvelous Divas. It's the Divas Podcast Network, if you will. And you can find us. The podcasts are wherever podcasts are. They're not difficult to find. It's the Apple Podcast, Spotify, etc. It's wherever you found this one. But you can find us on all the social media, specifically for Dark Side Divas. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, that fucking hellscape, and TikTok, also kind of a hellscape, but more fun. For Dark Side Divas, it is at Dark Side Divas. For Marvelous Divas, it is at Marvelous_Divas. That's it. That's where you find us.
You can also go to their YouTube channel, which is under the Dark Side Divas brand, where they do the occasional live show and also recorded shows. And if you are so interested in joining their Discord, you can find them at patreon.com/Divas Podcast.
Charles, are you being paid by the Divas
not.
Patreon people? Like, are they
really
like
not.
funding you? Like,
I've
I feel
just
like
listened to this outro so many times.
You know what it
that I know
is?
where to find
You're
them.
doing Chris's part of the outro. I don't listen when he talks, so I don't
am
know
doing
that part
Chris-
even happens.
Oh
So,
my god. So see,
I did
Chris-
my part of the outro.
Chris, I can do your job.
he's starting his campaign now.
There it is. I'm just, you know what? I'm just gonna leave that there. Yeah.
I would not dream of doing anything beyond the occasional guest spot on the Divas Unleashed YouTube show, because I can take Bradley. Bradley
I don't
is
know that
within
you
my
can.
weight class.
I don't know that you can. Like, I'm seeing like a stone cold killer, particularly right this second.
Yeah, don't let his slightly dopey gaze fool you. Behind
That's the
twink
gaze of
vision
murder. Yeah, that's what that
a
is.
stone cold killer. Oh my goodness.
Nice.
Well, Steph, thank you. Thank you once again for joining us. And Bradley, go ahead and run our socials so we can get the fuck out of here.
And hopefully get some reviews.
Thank you for listening to Gold Squadron Gays. Did Charles fuck something up? Send us a message at goldsquadrongays@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at Goldsquadrongays. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Goldsquadrongays. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Goldsquadrongays, where we post the podcast as well as exclusive content. Please join us next week and every week for more of Goldsquadrongays.
You left that out of your recap, Bradley, and I was going to bring it up because I felt like of all the moments in this episode that elicited some sort of reaction from me.
I definitely did say that.
He did say it. You
did.
really don't
I
listen
really
when Bradley
don't listen.
talks.
I was going to say,
Wow.
see, this is why
No,
I'm
you
not
totally
doing
fucking
it
said it.
after this season.
I'm here to confirm. You said it. I heard you say it.
I listened to the first thing he says and the last thing he says. So
Which
I know
is
my
why we're
time
moving
stamps
to that
talk
format
about.
next season.
You know that's a terrible way to listen to people, right? I'm just saying.
Well,
Throw
it's a
that out
good thing
there.
that I don't listen to Bradley.